Case Amendment 23-01. This is related to House Bill 1405 passed by the Georgia Legislature in the session 2022. This text amendment is related to the zoning procedures law. This bill was passed. We have to adopt the House Bill 1405 by July 1st. Again, it amends the zoning procedures law for the county. Again, is related to public notification, agencies of delegated powers, required review procedures, decisions made by boards or agencies using delegated powers to provide judicial review of zoning decisions, required certain designations related to appeals of quasi-judicial decisions, to provide for related matters, and to repealing conflict laws and other purposes. In your packet, staff did make some minor modifications to redline anything not related to House Bill 1405. Again, the staff is here to answer any specific questions. We also have the attorney, Mr. Ted Meeker, to answer any specific case questions related to the House bill.
All right, very good. So what order do we need to go in here at this point?
Was there anybody signed up in opposition or support of this amendment?
No, ma'am, we did not receive anything.
Did the board have any questions?
I have one question. So this is a requirement since the legislature passed House Bill 1405. Is that correct, that we must make this change?
Yes, ma'am.
What happens if we don't make the change?
Mr. Meeker, would you like to come on up to the podium, please? Thank you.
Our zoning ordinance would be out of compliance in terms of what state law requires, which would possibly raise potential claims against the county for not having these procedures implemented by the due date.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
So I guess my question is, why would the Planning Commission vote to recommend denial then?
There was, again, so we redlined some of those parts that weren't related to the House Bill 1405. That's the reason why. So we took those out to clean it up, more of just make sure that we are in compliance with House Bill 1405.
I see. Thank you.
Okay.
Chairman, did you have any questions?
I have no questions, and I do appreciate the questions coming from both the commissioners, so I'm ready to move forward.
All right, then we're ready for the next item.
The next item is text amendment case 23-02. This is an ordinance related to section 218-13, standard use and development for amusement arcade, amusement theme park, and maximum lot size. The Planning Commission did take no action for this. Staff would like to have the opportunity to go back and make some additional changes for this text amendment. Again, so we wanted to clean up a few of the definitions, overall development standards, as well as to repeal any conflicting language in the development standards.
Which case number is this?
2023-02, but it's a text amendment case.
Okay, very good.
Was there anyone signed up to speak tonight?
We have one person in opposition.
Okay. You ready for public comment on this one?
Yes.
All right.
First, for the person to speak in opposition is Ms. Sally Robertson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I wanted to speak in opposition to this bill because I don't believe that it is in the best interest for Rockdale County to allow amusement parks half the size of Six Flags in our small county. I think that it would cause too much of an effect on the environment, on litter, waste, water, our traffic, our infrastructure, and I believe it would also set us up for possible legal problems with all of the activities that happen in amusement parks. 120 acres is a lot of space. 20 acres seems much more manageable and more in line with the county's general idea of small business, family business, locating things in a smaller way, and really supporting the community in those ways. And we also already have Costley Mill, the Georgia Parks Park. Anything larger than the 20 acres would be, to me, out of scope for our lovely Rockdale County. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
There was just one speaker for this one tonight.
Okay. All right.
Any
So
questions?
I have a question then. So this is just a text amendment. So what is the exact change in this text from the previous text?
So right now, we do not have a defined.
Chris, I need you to speak where everybody can hear you.
Sorry, again.
This has been a challenge for me tonight. Now I need your help.
Sorry. So the changes that we are looking to change is to clarify what is an outdoor recreation, what is an amusement park, what is an amusement theme park. Again, our current code is very vague, so we're looking to make some changes to be clear on what is an outdoor recreation, what is an amusement park, what can be considered in line with that. Because an amusement park and a theme park can be considered an outdoor recreation. So we want to clarify and make sure that we know exactly what can be considered an amusement park, an outdoor theme park, or outdoor recreation. Again, there's certain outdoor recreation, such as passive outdoor recreation, as well as active outdoor recreation. So we are looking to clean it up and make it very simple for everybody to understand what it is what can be allowed outside in certain zoning categories, as well as the size limits for each of those specific uses as well.
So we have always had a text in our, or an ordinance that said would allow these amusement parks and theme parks.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is actually to tighten up and to clarify
Yes, ma'am.
exactly what can happen and who can do it, because otherwise it's just kind of general and out there.
Yes, ma'am. It is just general vagueness, which again, it can be very hard to interpret if we don't actually make specific changes to it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions on that one?
No.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Next item, please.
The next case to you is a Flume Case 22-05, RZ 22-11. This is, again, Southeast Highway 138, Southeast Highway 138 and 2010 Weatherstone. This application has been before you. It was denied on the March 14th, 23 BOC voting session. The applicant did appeal the decision, and the courts ruled that it comes back to the BOC for consideration. In your packet, the Weatherstone subdivision and the applicant agreed to some extra conditions that weren't in the original application. Staff is in agreement with those conditions. We ask that you consider those conditions when you make your decision.
Very good. So who do we have?
Is there anyone signed up to speak tonight?
No, ma'am, we did not receive anything.
Okay.
I do see one gentleman standing here. Are you in reference to this issue, sir, that we're talking about? Oh, come on up. I want to make sure we afford everybody and anybody an opportunity tonight. I think we're challenged a little bit with our sound, but want to make sure that we're clear. If you would check in with Mr. Wheeler first, let him know who you are. Just walk right over there to him, please.
That's the applicant, sir.
Okay, well then, that's what I need to know. That's what she asked you.
Yep, sorry about that.
Speak up. All right, let's go, sir.
Good evening, commissioners. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
My name is Josh Mahoney. I'm an attorney with Battle Law PC. We're located at 3562 Habersham at Northlake in Tucker, Georgia. I'm here this evening with Mr. Dean Cowart, who is a representative on behalf of the applicant. Commissioners, I'm just going to give you a brief history on this one. I know this has been before you once before, so I will keep it short. The applications before you this evening are for a future land use amendment and for a rezoning. These applications will allow for the development of 38 townhomes at the corner of Weatherstone Circle and Highway 138. The townhomes themselves will be situated only on the west side of Weatherstone Circle, while the property on the east side of Weatherstone Circle will remain undeveloped green space. The result of these applications will be what's considered a down zone, which is a drop in intensity from the currently permitted commercial and office uses to residential uses. If this all sounds familiar, that is because this layout is the same layout that we all reviewed the last time we were here before you. Now, while the site plan has not changed, we do actually have some news for you on this matter. This time around, we do have a letter of support from the Weatherstone Homeowners Association, which you should all have received in the packet. This letter lays out, or is written by President Nichelle Ford, and lays out the support for these applications. And unfortunately, President Nichelle Ford cannot be here this evening to speak to you on this matter, but she did send this for me to read into the record. So with your permission, I will go ahead and start reading this letter. This was addressed to Attorney Michelle Battle. So, dear Ms. Battle, an additional meeting was to offer an opportunity for the community to again hear the details connected to the issues of the rezoning of the 3 parcels of land located on both sides of the entrance for the provision of a townhome development in order to come to a consensus once and for all around this issue. After a lengthy discussion, all but 5 of the neighbors came to a consensus that they are willing to live with the following and other conditions as they have been previously presented by the Wellborn Development Company and by the Battle Law Group. First, the parcel 046-001-002E to be rezoned from C1 to allow for the total number of 38 townhome units. 2, all improvements will be removed from the 2 parcels 046-001-002D and 046-B01-0273, currently zoned OI, and the area will be conveyed to the new townhome association and to remain undeveloped green space as is in perpetuity. 3, the side entrance located on Weatherstone Circle shall be gated and have a Knox box installed to allow entrance for emergency access only. And there will be no more than 2 units rented at any one time. The community believes that this is an outcome that can be lived with while also allowing for the preservation of the current character of the entrance of Weatherstone Circle. I thank you for your time and energy in getting to a place of resolution with us, and I look forward to moving on and continually working for positive outcomes for the Weatherstone community. With warm regards, Nichelle Ford. Commissioners, this letter is telling. I think it says that we've been able to work with this community. We've met a number of times, and while we have put in great effort to satisfy everybody, unfortunately we weren't able to do that. But what we did come up with was a plan that we think represents the interests of the majority and that what that majority can live with in the end. So with that in mind, I humbly request that you vote to approve these applications at your voting session on Tuesday, June 13th. But in the meantime, Mr. Cowart and I are here to answer any questions you all might have. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
I don't have a question. Listen, commissioners, I really want to just take a moment and commend the folks over at Weatherstone. This is exactly what this entire board has been asking for from all of the HOAs throughout the county, and even those areas where there's not HOAs, where people will come together with a collective mind, a spokesperson, and filter out their thoughts, getting away from the noise and sometimes the static. Oftentimes, people come into the meetings, they really want to get the facts, but they can't hear the facts because there's so much other noise that's going around they can't hear. These folks at Weatherstone, after the board had already rendered a decision, came back together and revisited the decisions that were made, and they moved together collectively after hearing the facts and getting away from emotions and the noise. So I really want to commend them for the effort they've made to work with our staff, but work among themselves as a community to decide what's best for them. And I'll stop right there, but this is leadership, absolutely. And let me give a big shout out to the HOA president, Ms. Nichelle Ford. She did a tremendous job because HOA presidents are not paid. And they have to hear a lot of noise a lot of times, and they're not paid individuals, so hats off to them. What is our pleasure at this point? Where do we stand on this issue?
I want to also thank the developers and the Battle Law Group for all of the work that they did to listen to the citizens and come up with something. The letter clearly says that this isn't optimal, but this is what we can live with. And they came from a place of a resounding no to only 5 people that were in attendance that were in opposition. And so that also takes leadership from the developer coming in and understanding that this county has standards that it wants to adhere to, and listening and doing something that is what our citizens are saying, where our citizens are saying they want to be in perpetuity. So thank you, Battle Law Group also.
And I think what's also interesting is there were compromises on both sides.
Right.
And that's key, and that takes communication, and it takes a lot of perseverance and willing to listen and to hear both sides to come to this conclusion. This is phenomenal. This is really phenomenal, so thank you.
Yes. Yes, Commissioners, both of you are absolutely correct. And hats off to our staff as well for working with the developer and the citizens out at Weatherstone to make sure that we come to a common ground and a workable, reasonable, feasible solution. All right, Deputy Director Wheeler.
Next case before you is SUP 23-01. Applicant is Brandon Cabrera and Mr. Fidel Cabrera. The applicant is seeking to seeking to get a special use permit for the operation of an outdoor recreation facility, specifically rodeo. Tax parcels are 0530010089, 0530010071B, 0530010071, or 0530010126. Just wanted to get that into the record. The application did recommend denial from the Planning Commission. To kind of go over the project summary, the application again is looking to do an outdoor rodeo. They indicated on their submitted site plan that they will have first aid stations, portable restrooms, and a grass parking area. The application did indicate that there would be 3 points of access onto the site, two for the public and one for the rodeo acts. Some key issues that staff wanted to point out, again, there needs to be certain infrastructures to be in place to support the events. The proposed uses must not encroach to the water protection zoning district. The noise of the event should not exceed 65 decibels. Again, all conditions must be completed within 12 months of the BOC approval. Again, the current zoning of the subject properties, again, are medium, are R1, AR, agricultural, and also as well WP, they have a split zoning. And the future land use for the subject properties are medium density, and again, the split zoning has WP for Water Protection District. Again, so we have before you is our developmental standards. Currently, the application did submit developmental standards, and they do not meet all of the developmental standards. However, if the board should approve the applicant will have to comply with all developmental standards set forth in the zoning regulation.
When you say standards, you do mean the conditions, is that correct?
That's, yes, sir, the conditions as well as just our normal developmental standards such as setbacks, overall size, buffers, and so forth.
So I want to pause just for a moment. I'm going to ask Director Njoku if she would come to the microphone and read off every one of those conditions, and take your time. Audio visual, let's make sure her mic is ready. She's walking up there, so let's get the mic ready so she can speak into the mic. She can take her time and read all of those conditions, and we'll be clear. I want to make sure everybody understands what we're trying to do here. Absolutely.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. The Planning and Development Commission, actually the Planning and Development Department has listed out 27 conditions for this specific project.
27.
Those 27 conditions are there to meet the standards of quality that we believe will make it an effective project, as well as would meet also the standards that have been brought up by the citizens' body. Standard 1, the site and associated activities shall be restricted to the agricultural residential A-R zone parcels and associated areas. Standard 2, the applicant shall abide by all required setback standards as established by the Unified Development Ordinance for the A-R zoning district. Standard 3, no outdoor recreational activities are permitted within the Water Protection Zone, W-P, zoned area of parcel 053-0010071, located at 400 W Hightower Trail. Standard 4, the development shall abide by all applicable standards of the A-R and W-P zoning district in the Unified Development Ordinance unless otherwise specified in those conditions or through approval of a variance by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Standard 5, the site and appropriate activities must adhere to the standards of use and development per section 218-. Standard 6, an environmental acoustic study shall be submitted to the director for review and approval. Noise levels shall not exceed 65 decibels DHA measured at the property line. Where there are exceedance from the prescribed noise level standard, the applicant shall perform mitigating measures to ensure noise meets the 65 decibel range. Standard 7, for any structure taller than 35 feet, the applicant shall prepare a view shed analysis to be reviewed and approved by the director to demonstrate that such structure will not be visible year-round from the windows or yards of any single-family residential property. Standard 8, all outdoor equipment taller than 35 feet shall be set back at least 75 feet from property line. Standard 9, an 8-foot-high fence with gates must be installed and kept locked except when the facility is open to the public. Standard 10, each parcel utilized for the operation of the rodeo shall have at least one approved entrance to a street classified by Rockdale County as an arterial, meeting all required UDO standards and receiving all required permits before any scheduled event can be held. Standard 11, a 100-foot buffer shall be maintained adjacent to all abatement residential zoning properties. Standard 12, outdoor activities shall be limited to the hours of 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Standard 13, lighting shall be contained in a cutoff time luminaries and shall be directed in towards the property so as not to shine directly into adjacent properties or right-of-way. Standard 14, the applicant shall submit a traffic control plan to the RDOT 30 days prior to each scheduled event for approval. Standard 15, the applicant shall provide a schedule of activities indicating dates in which the rodeo events are planned to occur 3 months prior to the first event being held through a mail out to neighboring residents with language approved by the Director of Planning and Development, and a letter of notification to the county. Any changes to planned events should notify neighboring residents and county staff 30 days in advance. Standard 16, the applicant shall provide an improved driveway for parcel 05300100071, permitting permitted in accordance with Section 332-3 and Section 302-50 of the Unified Development Ordinance, UDO, 3 months prior to holding any event on said parcel, if approved for a special use permit by the Board of County Commissioners. Standard 17, the applicant shall provide a minimum of 210 parking spaces in accordance with all requirements. Chapter 222 Off-Street Parking Standards. All parking areas shall be paved with asphalt, concrete, or provisional or previous materials. Recommended previous paving materials include those described in Volume 2- Technical Handbook of the Georgia Stormwater Management Manual, first edition, August 2001, as the porous concrete or modular porous pave system under the limited application stormwater structure controlled, Section 222-2. The applicant, Standard 18, the applicant must provide a detailed plan for events intended for parcel 053-001-0089 and 053-001-071B in the form of an application for special use permit to be reviewed and approved in accordance with Section 238-6 before any related recreational activity can be permitted to occur on those sites. Standard 19, prior to the start of operations, obtain any necessary permits to bring the proposed structure and property up to code for the intended occupancy. Standard 20, the applicant shall submit an accessory building permit application for review and approval in accordance with Section 218-7, 3 months prior to holding any event on said parcel, if approved for a special use permit by the Board of County Commissioners. Standard 21, billboards or oversized signs shall not be permitted. Standard 22, no tents, canopies, temporary banners, streamers, or ropes decorated with flags, tinsels, or other similar materials shall be displayed, hung, or strung on the site. No decorative balloons or hot air balloons shall be displayed on the site. Yard and or banded signs, sign walkers, and sign twirlers shall be prohibited. Standard 23, outdoor storage shall be prohibited. Standard 24, dumpsters shall be screened by a 100% opaque brick or stackable stone wall with an opaque metal gate enclosure. Hours of dumpster pickup shall be limited to between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Standard 25. The special use permit shall be valid for 1 year period, at which that time the use shall be ceased, or the special use permit must be renewed. Standard 26, peddlers and or parking lot sales shall be prohibited. And Standard 27, the applicant is to provide a site development plan in accordance with Section 302-4 and show parking areas and W-P district boundaries, existing wetlands, environmental sensitive areas, historic structures in relation to planned rodeo activities for parcel 05-300-100 for the Director of Planning and Development approval.
So thank you, Director Njoku. Now, let me just take a moment. What she just did was she read 27 conditions. What I want to see happen, Executive Director Rutledge, we will not be making, the board, we won't be making any decision, as already previously stated, until June 13th. I want to make sure that all 27 conditions are published and printed and accessible by our website so that anybody, watch this, in America can access the Rockdale County website and see all 27 of those conditions. I don't know how in tune you were with all of what she just read. We're going to put the conditions out there so you can see them. You'll be able to read it between now and the 13th of June, and you'll be able to see, hear, read exactly what she just read. During that time, myself and my two colleagues, as stated earlier, will be processing all the information. Let me tell you what we're going to be processing. All these cards that folks said no, all the emails that folks said no, all the text messages that folks says no. We're going to take all of that in, as well as the text messages, the calls, the cards, and the emails of those that said they were in favor of it. Nothing happens tonight. If you also listen to the 27 conditions, one might think if someone is trying to bring forth any type of development or property, the planning and development staff just created 27 conditions that must be followed. We took a list from the meeting last night. We heard the concerns from the Planning and Commission meeting. We also heard the concerns that was yielded to Commissioner Washington, Commissioner Williams, and we've taken all of that into consideration. And we still have time. No decision is made tonight. We've put in 27 conditions hearing from the people in the community. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. I wanted to make sure that our team knows, Director Njoku, that we want to make sure that the 27 conditions are accessible so that we can get those on the web, and anybody that wants to read them beyond the night. Now, you're going to have to give our team just at least 24 hours to get all that stuff loaded up, because it won't be a snap of the finger. It'll be there tonight. It won't be there tonight at 10 o'clock. So I just thought I'd put that out there. But I wanted to make sure I said that because she read 27 conditions, and I think that's evident that we've heard from the crowd, and we're trying to make sure that we're moving in a very fair and equitable manner. No decision made tonight. Where do we stand at this point, Deputy Director Wheeler?
We have a special presentation by the director. We want to make sure that we can, there were some concerns at the last public hearing that staff wasn't able to address. So the director is going to take time to address those concerns right now. Also, I want to apologize for those who are in the audience right now. My slide did not update with all those, with the 27 conditions. I have 26 on there, but I will make sure that those 27 conditions are the exact conditions that the director read out.
Thank you so much. I think this is a good idea. Go right ahead.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It had come to our attention in the Planning and Development Department that there were some concerns specifically about the special use permit case number 2023-1, the Hightower Trail Rodeo. And we wanted to use this opportunity to provide some clarity to the commission and to the guests that are here so that we can be all in one accord about the diligent effort that we're making sure to have heard everything that was said, but to also to ensure the community that the Planning Development Department, in concert with our other departments from security to water to watershed management to fire, have all come together to have an active and full review of this specific case. Next slide.
Thank
First thing I would like to first clarify is the difference between a special events permit and a special use permit, because I think sometimes there's a bit of ambiguity as far as what we are talking about here. Next slide. A special events permit is attached to an event. It is short-term. It is a single-use permit, and it's allowed 2 times a year. This has limited restrictions and is subject to the planning and development approval. The case in part right now has had 3 special event permits, special events permit. Next slide. However, in discussion in this particular case, we are speaking about a special use permit. It's attached to the land. It is a long-term, it's a long-term permit. It can be permanently attached to the land. However, it depends on compliance with very specific conditions at times. Some of those conditions can be restrictions based on the zoning. It can be term limits, as in this case, the 1-year term limit before review. And of course, as the 27 conditions that our department put together to make sure that this program and that this specific project meets the highest standards of the county. This is subject to the Board of Commissioners' approval. Next slide. Next slide. So highlighting some of the concerns that were clear to us in the May 11th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. We took the top 4 and most consistent concerns: traffic, noise, watershed and water protection zones, and securities. Next slide. And we broke down the conditions that I read to you, but I would give in summary. In the 27 conditions, we focused on traffic, at which out of the 27, I know they went kind of fast, we took specific time to liaison with Rockdale's Department of Transportation that weighed in on this application before we recommended approval with these specific conditions attached. Due to the number of events of this applicant, we have definitely recommended a traffic control plan be submitted to Rockdale's Department of Transportation 30 days prior to each scheduled event. Each parcel will utilize for the operation of the rodeo shall have at least 1 approved entrance to the street. However, the applicant has talked about 3. The applicant shall provide a minimum of 210 parking spaces. This is to meet with Chapter 222 off-street parking standards. And transportation has made very specific recommendations that is in the current application right now to provide an on-site queue plan, to provide a traffic control plan, and to ensure that any changes to that plan will be run through Rockdale's Department of Transportation to ensure that traffic control is done effectively. Next slide. Concerns about noise. We took a deeper dive into looking at the concerns about noise, using past and current precedents to make sure that we were meeting the standards of events of this size and, of course, of this frequency. Standard across the board is a 65 decibel, and we are requiring the applicant to make sure that they have an environmental acoustic studies done to speak to how loud it's going to be. According to the standards that exist here in Rockdale County, a 100-feet buffer shall be maintained adjacent to all abated residential zoning properties. Outdoor activities shall be limited to the hours of 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And Chairman and Commissioners, we've gone and looked at rodeos within the surrounding state, also rodeo competitions in the surrounding state. The times between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. are standard throughout the state of Georgia, varying from a time period up to about 11 p.m. across the state. We've also took a time to reach out to other rodeos and rodeo associations to make sure that we were meeting even larger national standards for when these times will stop. In the state of Georgia, there is a time for quiet enjoyment, and that begins on the weekend from 12 midnight to about 7 a.m. in the morning, some areas 8, and in some other regions, it starts at 11 p.m. and goes to 7 a.m. So this is to make sure that we meet fair standards. Next slide. In addition to that, we are all committed to making sure that our water protection zones are protected. We want to make sure that we do things the right way. So we have put in no outdoor recreational activities are permitted within the watershed protection zones as a standard condition. We've worked to make sure that the other things specified within the 27 conditions are meeting our stormwater recommendations. Stormwater has recommended an undisturbed natural vegetation buffer shall be maintained within 50 feet, which ensures that the natural vegetation that is coming within our watershed or water protection zones will be maintained. An additional setback shall be maintained for 25 feet beyond undisturbed natural vegetation buffers. We've also required and followed stormwater in their recommendation for no septic tanks or septic tanks drain fields shall be permitted within the buffers of this setback. This is to ensure that our water quality, our natural vegetation, and our natural greenlands are maintained even in the midst of different activities. Next slide. Security. One of the things that we take very seriously. Working in conjunction with our fire protection and within our sheriff's department, looking at our county standards and also working against our state standards, we take security very seriously. That's why we're requiring the applicant to make sure that they have a detailed plan of how this event is going to be beforehand. Something that we can walk through and have ample security, ample emergency management services, ample ambulances, doctors in place, projecting out what this event might be for the foot traffic and the level of participation. Security means a lot to us. We are not having any outdoor storage areas. Those are prohibited. Like I specified in the 27, we are ensuring the dumpster sites will be covered. We are definitely taking a fair look at having no unnecessary signage, nothing that would disturb the actual quality of life of the surrounding neighborhood while this event is enjoyed. We looked at the project. The project already includes security and police stations, and it already includes a first aid station in the applicant's original submission. What we've added to that from the fire plan recommendation is portable fire extinguishers, personally dedicated sole areas to watch for make sure that there are no fires or nothing is disturbed, international fire codes, and no smoking signage around. This is to make sure that we not only protect the people that are attending the event, but the land and all that might be surrounding it. Next slide. One of the things that I also want to reiterate is how proud I am as a new director to work with such great professionals. The watershed department, stormwater, code enforcement, security, and all the people that have come together to review applications show a dedication to making sure that we are working with the residents here to achieve the goals of what they want to do, but we're also paying attention to the rest of Rockdale County to ensure that they are protected. But specifically to the Department of Planning and Development, I want to specify what we do in the community. Next slide. Our role in the community is to provide an unbiased review of business planning and development projects based on the finding of the facts, zoning, and UDO codes of Rockdale County. We're here to provide support for business and development in the interest and protection of Rockdale County's community at large. Planning and development is responsible for the administration of permits, business licenses, and nonprofit registration, alcohol beverage licenses, Development plan reviews zoning and long-range planning. We work in collaboration with the necessary state, county, and city departments to ensure regulatory standards and laws are upheld. We wanted to take this time out to be able to give this short presentation to really try to drill down and hopefully build the confidence in the community here that you have been heard, and we have taken all things into consideration to make sure that this project really receives the opportunity of due process. We work in a process that's afforded to everybody here at Rockdale County that wants to do something great and wants to be a part of community in different ways. In our due process, we take due diligence to make sure that we try to meet the standards and also look at past and present precedents so that we are consistent in providing quality to the county across the board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Director. Thank you so much. I think that, without question, that presentation was timely, particularly with you coming on board as a new director and laying out a path forward in terms of how we're trying to collaborate with all of our partners, both internal and external, as well as creating an opportunity to hear from all of our citizens about the concerns that they may have. That is so important. Deputy Director Wheeler is back in your court.
Yes, sir. So I am done with my presentation. So now we'll have the applicant come up and speak, and they have, which I want to ask the total of minutes you want to allow them to speak. Normally we have 10 minutes, but since we have a large gathering, how long would you like for the applicant to be able to speak for?
So before you call those up to speak, let me just take a moment to say this. Every individual who has signed up to speak, normally through our process of the hearing is really, really tight. And there's limited time for both those who are in opposition as well as those in favor. But tonight, we're going to make an executive decision to allow the amount of time for those people who want to speak. Now, let me just throw this out here. Unless y'all want to be here till 12 o'clock, it doesn't need everybody to say the exact same thing over and over and over again. I think the meeting is going well right now, and I think we're hearing from each other very clearly. However, if you want to speak, I've said we're going to let you. If everybody leaves, there's nobody here but me and you. I'm going to let you get it all out tonight. Okay? So, Deputy Director Wheeler, if you would please call up the first speaker. We'll hope that person come on up, speak into the microphone, and we'll hear from them.
The first speaker is going to be the applicants, Mr. Cabrera Brandon specifically.
Good evening, Mr. Cabrera. Make sure you speak into the microphone, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Brandon Cabrera, located at 460 West Hightower Trail. Thank you to everyone for taking the time to be present today. More than glad to see all of our neighbors coming together, a lot of familiar faces. No matter which way this goes, I'll repeat, we hope to be, great neighbors to everybody here, get to meet more faces, and, we love our property and we love, Rockdale County as a whole. I'd like to start off by clearing up a little bit more of the confusion about our outdoor family event. We respect all of our neighbors and the community as a whole, and we decided to start this venture to create this family event with our goal to bring together the community and have a good time no matter who you are, and of course it's to the public, so not just the community, but anybody is welcome. In our journey of doing so, we made sure to apply for all necessary permits thus far for the special event permits and to comply to any regulations associated to this type of event. Furthermore, we are here with the mindset to get the special use permit, even with any conditions that we must abide by. I know that not everybody is in our favor, and I'm happy to see a lot of people that are in our favor. But I'd still like to hear all the concerns and possibly just continue to make changes or whatever the amendments might be so that we can, all be in agreement to it. For anybody who has any more concerns or doubts, I'd like to extend the invitation that I did last time on the last hearing to come out to the property. I can be outside afterwards to kind of take note of everybody, so make sure that everybody can come in to the next permitted event or come to the property in general. Just talk to us, talk to my father and I, and we'd be more than glad to show everybody around and explain furthermore who we are, get to meet you guys, and kind of explain furthermore the what it is that we're trying to do here with everybody present.
Thank you, Mr. Cabrera. Don't leave yet. I want to yield to the commissioners. Commissioner Washington, any questions for Mr. Cabrera?
Sure. So let me first say that I love a good rodeo. I actually was a grand marshal at a rodeo once. But my concern is, or my question is, why not have this at a facility that we already have, which is the horse park?
Yes, this has been brought up before, and
No. I'm not asking.
Hang on 1 minute, Commissioner. Let me help you out here. Ladies and gentlemen, so that we can hear, give the commissioner the opportunity to ask her questions. Please hold your applause. What I'm not going to do tonight is entertain outbursts and disruptions. We will conduct ourselves in a proud Rockdale County way. So please, let's be mindful and respectful. Hold your applause. Let's hear from the commissioner so she can engage the questions. I think she's about to ask some questions that you want to know. So let's hold the applause so we can all hear. Thank you, Commissioner.
And the reason why
Yes.
that is a question of mine is because all of the conditions that you all have and everything that you all are asking to do on the property that you have are already in place at the horse park. So it just seems to me that that's a almost natural venue for something like this. And it minimizes the effects that it will have on a residential neighborhood if you did it in a venue like that. So I just wanted to know the reason for taking it out of something. And we're one of the few places in Georgia that has a venue like a horse park. So I just.
Yes, to answer your question, I've only been there a couple times, haven't really seen around the horse park in its entirety. I don't know if, I personally do not know if people are allowed to host events there on their own. I don't know. I mean, that'd be interesting to research. But on our property, we plan to host something not as large scale, I would say. It's a bit more smaller scale. And, I know there was talks about a building coming up that would be enclosed to kind of, quiet down all the commotion involved with the rodeo. But like I said, I don't know the horse park in its entirety, the facilities that it may have, or how we could host something there. But the rodeo itself has been, the ones we've done have been more so bull riding. It hasn't been, I guess, I don't know if anything has happened at the horse park already similar to it. I don't know. This particular type of family event with the community has been done at the horse park. I do not know.
I'm so sorry, I didn't hear that. You said that you don't know if they've done the bull riding at the horse park?
I personally don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Yeah, I personally do not know if they do that there.
Okay. And so you've also said that in the application, it is catered to over 1,000 people.
I mean, personally, the land does fit that amount of people, but we've seen maybe just a few over 500 people show up, people in the community, neighbors especially that we know personally, people from, surrounding counties. And similar events do happen like in Athens, and they work with the Athens County I forgot what the name of the county is, but I've seen events happen there. I've visited events like that. So we just decided to do something similar to that. But the event, our property could hold that amount of people, but we haven't seen it,
Okay, so that was leading into my question about the 200 and something parking lots. Is that parking spaces, is that going to be adequate for 1,000 people, as well as how are you all planning to make sure that people get safely on and off of Hightower Road?
Correct.
At 1,000 people?
Yeah, so we've never reached 1,000 attendance before on the two events that we had. and currently kind of partnered with the Sheriff's Office to control traffic on the road. We have staff that also helps with the parking on the grassed area that was on the side of the rodeo. So we had staff and the Sheriff's Office themselves to control traffic, professionally and adequately to, prevent anything. So we kind of but they also controlled the security. We also hired another security group that had like metal detectors and such for the entrance of the venue to kind of push a little bit more of the safety. But we do feel a lot of confidence in working with the Sheriff's Office that they control like traffic and security. We had a lot of attendees kind of say that was different from any other county they've been to, that they saw the actual sheriff deputies to actually be the security for this type of event, and they got to meet a lot of the deputies themselves and have good conversations and stuff like that. So I thought that was cool to partner with our own community.
The rodeo is very, very animal specific. Do you all have veterinarians on hand to help assist any of the animals that might be in distress?
Yes, correct. So the last event was, I believe it was, 15 to 20 bulls that rode, and then we had it's kind of like a horse kind of walk where people brought in horses and did like a little trail ride around the property. And because we know a lot of horse and cow people, we had we know a veterinarian that comes from Texas who we're able to hire and fly in and make sure that we have someone on site to care for the animals in case of anything. Because, anything can happen. You never know. So we make sure of that. And the property, because the event, the rodeo itself, the riding and stuff, that can happen between 3 to 6 hours. So horses and bulls are not on the property 24/7 or throughout the year. Just if we have one event every 6 months, then that'd be the only time we would have animals there. We don't personally, have any livestock on our property full time.
Okay. So I'm really asking this next question as a way to inform myself. But whenever you have a lot of animals, that could lead to a lot of illegal activity, illegal fighting, illegal gambling, just a whole lot of illegal activity on a premise like that in a setting like a rodeo. What measures are you all going to have in place to ensure that those things aren't taking place during the rodeos?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've heard of it. I've never attended, but I've heard of like rooster fighting, and I guess there's horse racing, legal and illegal in some places, and here it's not. So we don't have that happening, and it's public. Anybody can come in and see it. So if there's anybody from, I guess, any sort of department or the government that comes and sees, they'll know. And the third thing is that the sheriff's deputies are on site during the event, so I don't really think anybody would be dumb enough to do anything crazy while we have security there. That's law enforcement themselves.
How many sheriff deputies do you employ? Because quite frankly, you have 86 acres, and that's a lot of land for things to happen. And I don't know if you only have 2 sheriff's deputies.
Oh, no. How many was it last time? About 42 sheriff deputies, and where the rodeo is it's kind of, the surrounding area is wooded. There's trees, so there's also a fence. So it's not 80-something area of open land where people can kind of just go wherever. Where the rodeo is pretty centralized and covered by trees and fence. So people that are just attendees that are not, family to mine or friends can't just go wander off to the rest of the property or the neighboring areas. We have it fenced now, and it's kind of centered. I don't know exactly the acreage, but it's centered in a smaller area just for the event itself, and with that many sheriff deputies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Hang on, Mr. Cabrera. Commissioner Williams, have any questions for Mr. Cabrera?
I do. The first questions I had were about the animals, but I think you answered that. But except I have one more, and that's, where do the animals come from? You said you don't keep them on site.
Yes. So the rodeo is open to different ranches that have, themselves bulls that want to participate in the rodeo, and then kind of like I'm sorry, how do you say it? Like a competition, I guess. Bull riding itself is the competition, and so people can come in from different parts of Georgia or neighboring states, people that like to participate. There's, like I said, many different events that happen in close counties and close states that already do events similar to this. So the people that participate in events like that are able to participate in this event as well. So it can be Alabama, Florida, but lots from Georgia as well.
So do you belong to a rodeo association?
No, this is a bit smaller, not a large rodeo association, but just something a little more smaller, southeast, I guess you can say.
So there is an association here in the southeast?
I don't know of an association, just the people that participate in those events. But I don't know if there's, not that I know of.
Okay. So how did you get started in this?
Well, thankfully, like I said, I've been to a lot of events, and growing up, like my father and I know a lot of family friends that, we have a couple that actually have their own bulls that they do bull riding with, so we saw that there was the possibility to kind of bring that to the community and have a cool event. I've heard that in the community itself, in the county, there has been rodeos previously. It's been a couple years since this happened, so we knew of it previously in our county and saw the opportunity to kind of do it once more.
Thank you.
Mr. Cabrera, thank you for answering the questions from both of the commissioners. That takes care of the information coming from Mr. Cabrera. Deputy Director Wheeler is now back in your court. Thank you, Mr. Cabrera.
Thank you.
We do have people who signed up to speak in favor of the applicant. The first person to speak in favor is Lee F. Moore. I hope I said that correctly.
Okay, is that?
I can't read cursive that well, apparently.
Good evening. My name is Joe F. Moore, Joe Franklin. Maybe you can't read my writing.
Okay. All right, sir. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming out tonight. Go right ahead.
I'd first like to state that I am in favor of the rodeo. I remember as a kid over on Johnson Road, I'm a lifelong resident of Rockdale County. I was born in that hospital right down the road. But there were rodeos every summer, and I loved them. And I know Mr. Cabrera, I've met him, and he's very family-oriented. And I have seen the property that he's bought. I hunted that property all my life when I was young. He's done nothing but make improvements on the property. All of it. And I'm for him doing what he wants to do on his property.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming out tonight. Let's call up the next speaker, please.
Robert L. Smith.
Mr. Smith, thank you for coming out tonight. You can slide through there. Just be careful, please, sir. I don't want you to mess up that nice hat you're wearing.
I am a hatter.
Me too. I'm a hat man. Yes, sir.
So you called me by my government name, Robert Smith, but my name is Dusty.
Okay, all right.
I live right across the road on Roebuck Road from where they have the facilities at.
Yes, sir.
I am a horse trainer, and I ride my horses on his property. I've been doing it for the last 2 years. And every time I go over there, I see improvement. The place, the houses that he has bought has been pretty well neglected until Fidel got a hold to them and cleaned them up, fixed them up as if someone's going to live there, but nobody lives there. But the yards are immaculate. This is a couple of houses he's done too that I know personally. The pasture right next to my property was growed up, and we had a serious rat problem. My cats were afraid of these rats. My dogs were afraid of these rats. I don't have that problem anymore. It is a joy. In fact, I got a picnic table sits out there by my property where he put his fence up, and we sit there and we watch the sun go down. We couldn't do that before. Take a ride on his property. Get permission. Come with me. It looks like a park. Seriously, it looks like a park, the whole place. There is no animals on his property. I can attest to that, unless they snuck some in while I've been sitting here. But there is no animals there. The bulls are family owned, and this is typical with rodeos. There are the riders who compete riding the bulls, and they go national. There is also another competition that is behind the scenes, which is of the bull themselves, competing as to what is the best bull in these competitions, in all rodeos.
That's men.
Well, I know some pretty tough women too. Now, personally, I grew up, I was raised up out west in Colorado, and rodeo is a national thing. It's big. I went to the rodeo every weekend. Every weekend I would go to the rodeo. And I've seen some trashy places and I've seen some good places. Fidel had a rodeo. The next day, that afternoon, you couldn't tell there was a rodeo there. It was cleaned up. It was gone. They had restrooms, oh my God, more than any ballpark I ever seen, lined up for anybody to use the bathroom. So there was no waste, no trash on the ground, none. It was clean. I went on the trail ride with them. We rode all around the property, and the only house that we come in contact with was mine. That was the only house we came in contact with. Everyone there is polite, courteous, respectful with each other, is very family oriented. The people that work for Fidel, I can vouch for them because I have had a couple of problems of my own with my vehicle. One particular time I was on my way to work and I broke down in a medium, and my truck wouldn't crank, and no one would help me. Fidel's people came by there, saw me, didn't know who I was, helped push me off the side of the road, got the toolbox out, and helped fix my truck so I can get to work. These are good people. They're honest, good people. There was 3 of them. 2 of them could not speak English, and the one was broken English. But with what poquito bit of Spanish I knew, we were able to communicate, and they helped me. Okay? A second time I got help was after all this rain we had this past winter. You remember? I was stuck in my backyard, and I couldn't get my grandson to school. He had missed the bus. I got stuck, buried to the axle. Fidel's employees came over and got me out and offered to take my grandson to school for me. These are good people, all right? They just want to, join the community together from what I can see and what I know. I am for the rodeo. I appreciate the conditions. I do. They need to have, there needs to be conditions. Like I said, I live right across the road. I hear the music. And when I go in my house and lay down in my bed to go to sleep, I don't hear it. So if anybody's windows are rattling, you need to get them windows checked. Because I live right there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Next speaker is John Wayne Castile Jr.
Come on up, Mr. Castile. Yes, sir. All right, watch your step there.
Hello, my name is John Castile. I've been here for my whole life. I'm for the safety and security of our home and I will stand with any individual or coalition if our home is in peril. I love my God, I love my family, I love my friends, so I cannot be silent when I see a man that I call my friend have his fundamental rights trampled upon. Mr. Fidel has said if you are unsure or have concerns, please come see for yourself. He will charge you nothing, and he wants to know what you think so he can help. And instead of our first reaction being to set up the gallows and hang him, perhaps we should allow him to address your concerns before cutting his throat. The coalition that has been formed against Fidel broke federal law on multiple accounts. It is a felony to place anything inside a mailbox, let alone across the county. Keep in mind that some of the individuals were providing the information to the coalition use the same handbook as Goebbels. There are a lot of lies and there are a lot of spreading of misinformation within the coalition. If you spread information that is inaccurate as if it is the truth to enough people, then it becomes the truth. Keep in mind, 60 head of bulls and horses put out about 60 cubic feet of excrement a day. That's the same amount as 2 horses a month. That's a lot of people to fit in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming out tonight. Next speaker, please.
Greg Hayes.
Mr. Hayes, come on up, sir.
I'm Greg Hayes. Been here for 55 years. Dusty pretty well summed up what I was going to say, but I'm in favor of it. And with y'all's conditions, I'd love to see him move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. Appreciate you coming. Next speaker, please.
Rusty Beam.
Rusty, how you doing tonight?
Doing good. How you doing?
Yes, sir.
My name is Ricky Bean. I live right across the street from this facility. It's a small community where we're at out there, and everybody out there pretty much has land and a lot of horses out there. There's a little store called the Little Country Store right by our house, and everybody goes there for everything. And I was approached there. I went to the first rodeo back in June of last year. I had a great time. Me and my wife both did. This last rodeo I had, a few days before, I had so many people come to me and ask me about this Mexican. What's this Mexican doing over there? Well, that right there tells me they're racially profiling this guy. They don't know him. He is a great guy. He would do anything for you. I had a bad accident back in April of last year. This man came to me and asked me, what do you need? What can I do to help you out? I said, I'm good, but I thank you for the offer. And so the rodeo is a good thing for the community because a lot of people there, like I say, have horses and have always enjoyed horses. And there's always been horses on this property here. Like I said, we have horses across the street from him. And I am in favor for it, and my family is in favor for it.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you so much, sir. Next speaker, please.
Matthew Underwood.
Matthew, come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Matthew Underwood. I have nothing bad to say about the rodeo. It's basically in my backyard. I went to the rodeo with my family. I have an 8-year-old son. He actually loved the rodeo. That's the only thing he talked about for several days after. He would show me videos on YouTube. It's just something that interested him. And the Cabreras, they bought the property behind me, beside me. And they have been the best neighbors that I can ask for. If I tried to come up with something bad to say about them, there's nothing. They have been the best. I've listened to opinions of other people because, I want to be neutral. And I understand, I respect everybody's opinion about it. If there's any issues, And I think we all have to come together. We all have to live together in this community. And I believe instead of knocking someone down for who they are and not knowing about what they're doing, go to the event. Go talk to Fidel Cabrera. Go talk to the Cabrera family. Get to know them. They're really good people. I couldn't ask for any better neighbors. And I support the rodeo, of course, under conditions that are approved upon that's going to be beneficial for the community. And I congratulate him for trying to do the things that he wants to do, accomplish his dreams in a correct way, because he comes from a different country, a different language. So I think we need to come together instead of knocking him down. We need to support him, help him out, guide him to do the things that he wants to do the right way. And everybody's welcome to come to the rodeo, as he already stated. So come on out. See what it's all about. Don't make an opinion without knowing who this guy is or what it's all about. So, like I said, I mean, they're really good people. Just as Dusty said, you know, he's been helped out. Mr. Cabrera, Fidel Cabrera, he has a good heart. My grandmother passed away a couple years ago, and he was the only person that called me. The only person out of all my friends, family. He called me and asked me how I was doing. And that meant the world to me. And I would do anything that I can to help him. And I know that he will do the same for me. So as I finish what I have to say, like I said, I'm in support of it under certain conditions. I approve of it, and I wish him the best of luck no matter which way it goes. I know he's going to be around. He's going to try to help everyone in this room no matter what happens.
Thank you, Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Next speaker, please.
Savannah Page.
Good evening to the Board of Commissioners. My name is Savannah Page Crowell, and I'm speaking for myself and my spouse, Robin Miranda. We live 3/4 of a mile from the Cabrera's property on Chandler Road. We've actually lived in Rockdale since 2020, but so we're newcomers to this neighborhood. We purchased this current house in February and moved in March. We were excited to join a longstanding neighborhood. We introduced ourselves to our neighbors with cookies. And we moved to Rockdale to enjoy the beauty of the land, but also to live in a community where people know each other's names and where they look out for each other. Regarding the rodeo, we actually had no background on this issue until we received a flyer about it in our mailbox about the hearing on May 11th. We were curious and we wanted to see what this conversation was about since we just moved in. And we saw there that many of our neighbors feel very passionately about this rodeo. We had heard that the event was noisy, that it generated a lot of trash, and that it upset the peace and quiet of the neighborhood. The first rodeo that happened after we lived here was on that Saturday, and I was pretty nervous considering what I had heard at the meeting. My elderly parents were visiting that weekend, and we were planning to run a number of errands in the area on Saturday, so I was worried about any traffic. But we drove through that Hightower, Georgia 20 intersection a few times that afternoon throughout the day, noticed no difference in the traffic. That afternoon, I noticed the music outside during the day when we went out to feed our animals, but we didn't hear it inside the house. When night rolled around and it was a bit quieter in the house, no TV, we could hear the music kind of from far away, but it wasn't window rattling. We and my parents were able to get to sleep with no problem. It really wasn't a big deal. And again, we live 3/4 of a mile away. Overall, it was underwhelming, considering the concerns that I had heard expressed at the meeting the week before. Both my wife and I joked that we had really been expecting a big disturbance, and it was a big nothing burger. I drove by the property the next day, and I didn't see any trash, though I didn't stop and get out of the car, so I definitely didn't do a thorough investigation. And if that is a good representation of what these rodeos are like, then I truly do not mind them. I want to live in a community that feels alive and vibrant, that has a cultural identity. Rockdale is peaceful, but it's not asleep. We chose to settle in Rockdale in part because it's more diverse than other surrounding counties. We'd experienced harassment when we lived in Newton County, and we wanted to move to Rockdale in order to feel safer and more welcome here. And we felt like we would be able to be part of this community. I want to be able to attend community events and engage with my family and neighbors, and that is what this rodeo represents to us. This rodeo is a large event for Spanish speakers in our community. We should encourage a diversity of cultural events in Rockdale, including those that cater to community members who may not have English as a first language. My wife and in-laws are Latinx, and it's very important to our family that we, especially our young nephew, have the opportunity to attend events in Spanish in our community that celebrate our culture. So we will be attending the rodeo in June. We were not able to attend because my parents were in town in May, but we're planning to participate and enjoy and meet others in our local Spanish-speaking community. This is a unique cultural event, a Mexican-style rodeo called a jaripeo, and it is not a horse-focused rodeo, as we've heard. It's traditional to hold these events on local pueblos and ranchos for the local community. Events like this are not currently very accessible in our county or in the surrounding area. And if folks are more interested in learning about jaripeos, I have copies of an article about this important cultural practice. I will read one line, which I thought was very impactful from it. Going to jariperos with my friends and getting excited during the Monte de Toros, enjoying the live music, admiring the caballos valladores, and dancing traditional Mexican music is the closest thing to my home country, 2,500 miles away. I do want to make one note to the board regarding some of the comments I heard at the last meeting. I think there is some confusion between this event and parties held by another neighbor, which happens in the neighborhood occasionally on the other side of our property. Sometimes this neighbor plays loud music, and we have experienced that, but it is not coming from the Cabrera's property. I think there's a little case of mistaken identity, and we can confirm that as our property is kind of between the Cabrera's and this other neighbor, and we can definitely tell which direction music is coming from. Like others mentioned, I can tell many members of the community are very invested in this issue and are very concerned about the noise. However, I really was troubled by the behavior displayed at the last hearing. People were cheering during the Cabrera's remarks, interrupting the Planning Commission and invading the privacy of the Cabrera's, and I was very saddened by that because that's not the kind of community we thought we were joining. I want to remind everybody that there's not an us versus them. We're a community and we contain a multitude of backgrounds, traditions, lifestyles, and opinions. Sometimes being community-oriented means supporting things in the community that benefit your neighbors, even if you don't directly benefit, or you have to accept some small inconveniences. To be clear, I really love the quiet. I love living in a quiet neighborhood. I love hearing the birds in the morning and the frogs at night. I used to live on the corner of a 6-way intersection in Atlanta, and I can tell you, I know what it's like to have your windows rattling all night every night. Rockdale has been such a peaceful haven for us, but 8 events a year is 8 out of 365 days. That's 2% of the days in the year. And I don't need it to be peaceful and quiet 100% of the time. 98% is more than enough for the chance to have a fun day once in a while with my family that celebrates our culture, that doesn't require driving 45 minutes to an hour. And I understand there are 27 provisions and standards that the Cabrera's have to meet before they could expand their rodeo, including a noise audit, the installation of a retaining pond. I trust that the county did their due diligence in evaluating the property and setting these conditions for the Cabrera's. The Cabrera's have been doing this for a while, and I believe that they have the experience to provide care for their animals and host this event safely. I understand that many of my neighbors are opposed to the rodeo, and I hear their concerns, but I say to them, please give the Cabrera's the opportunity to show that they can meet these standards and implement the plans to establish the rodeo safely in a way that protects the environment. I believe it adds something really special and valuable to our community and that it's worth protecting. I humbly request that you approve the special use permit.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Next speaker, please.
That is everybody who signed a public comment card to speak in favor.
Okay, now we're going to take about a 3-minute break. And I'll tell you what, let's take 5 minutes. Let's take 5 minutes and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you so much. So much. I think everybody needed that little break. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're calling our meeting back to order this evening. We'll ask that you would take your places once again, and I want to remind everybody as we move forward with tonight's meeting that we're mindful and respectful of the order and decorum in our auditorium tonight. We want to make sure that we can hear from all of our speakers and give everybody the opportunity to have a say. Deputy Director Wheeler, we have now heard from those who are in favor of the rodeo. I think it's time now to shift and hear from those who have signed up to speak who are in opposition.
Yes, sir. The first speaker is Douglas New. Douglas New.
My name is Douglas New. I live at 345 Spring Creek Way. It backs up to their property right there at 375 Hightower Trail. My main trouble is the noise. I had about 4 walls between me and my house, a row of cypress trees, and what trees and everything that they had left between my house and theirs. It sounded like it was in the next room to me. Now, I done get up a little age. I had to go to bed early. I can't wait up all night with them. The next problem is safety. About 2 weeks ago, I stopped and talked to one of the boys that takes care of the property for all. I told him about 2 pine trees in the corner of my property in 375 Hightower Trail. They're about 75 to 80 feet tall. All of them, there's 3 of them in there that were dead. He made a sarcastic remark, laughing, that he would take care right of it, get right at it. So far, they're still standing. Nobody's touched them. One of them, 2 days later, did fall across Hightower Trail. It's still laid on the side of Hightower Trail, not been touched. When it first came down, it was scattered all over Hightower Trail at 375 Hightower Trail. So they're talking about wanting to be good neighbors and work out. That ain't too good a neighbor to me. When that tree falls down, it's going to kill somebody, liable to kill somebody coming down Hightower Trail. I also have to cut my grass right next to it. I got a fella coming tomorrow. I'm going to ask him, is he afraid to get under around that tree to cut my grass? That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Next speaker, please.
Miss Sally Robertson.
Good evening. I'm also speaking for my husband, Barry Gwilt. We live at Sheffield Road at 2109. I wanted to say that and all of this is really moot because we are not here to talk about how nice and kind and good neighborly these gentlemen are, as I'm sure they are. A rodeo in this residential area so close to the watershed is really inappropriate. We are supposed to be in an area that is very slow to change as far as what is happening in the area for numbers. If 1,000 to 2,000 people are coming in 8, 10, 12, 15 times a year, that is a lot of infrastructure change. That is a lot of traffic. That is a lot of noise. Respectfully for the young lady who had such an excellent speech, if all you have is 8 days to sit outside on your deck in quiet and they're all taken up with very loud music. I don't hear animals, I hear lots of music. That really is 100% of my time. And also I live a mile and a half away, and the decibels coming out during the day, according to my decibel meter, were between 42 and 52. And again, I live a mile and a half away. I would hope that the conditions the department has put on are excellent, and if they are followed, I think a lot of the neighbors would feel better about it. We have great concern, I know my husband and I do, that the conditions would not be followed. And what is our recourse as residents besides complaining to the sheriff's office, which we find kind of inappropriate if it's not an emergency? But how do we make sure these are enforced? Because in order to have fairness on all sides, we should be able to have the structure of life that we wish, and then others can also have the structure of an event. And we would hope that, again, earlier I heard the term passive versus active entertainment. amusement. And I think that that is very important in this situation. I did want to mention something I thought of was a quick and simple resident response process to alert for noncompliance might be something to consider. But I would, again, like to say I oppose this in general for this area, nothing to do with personal feelings at all for anyone involved. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next speaker, please.
Ms. Crystal Boxer.
Give the name again, please.
Crystal Boxer.
Boxer. All right, next speaker, please.
Mr. Carl LaRocca. Mr. Carl LaRocca.
He's coming up. Thank you so much.
LaRocca, not LaRocca, but that's pretty close. Commissioners, I'm not very mollified by the 27 conditions. I mean, I don't know what exactly zoning regular allows in A and R, and I think that was like number 1 through 4, and like number 7 was like, unless we say it's okay for you to do what isn't in an A and R. That said, the acoustical audit, I presume, will be conducted by someone paid by Mr. Cabrera and delivered to you. It would not surprise me if he found a lower level of noise at the property line than I might find with a similar meter. The notion of decibels being taken at the property line doesn't really compute with me. They need to come to my property line. If Sally's got 45 decibels at her property line when they're playing music, I've got more than that because I've got 2 lakes and 3 pastures in between there. Woods has a tendency to baffle sound, to help hold down the sound, which is why they put barriers along expressways and so forth and so on. I've got a suggestion for the Cabrera family, whom are, without question, a hardworking, fine family. Remembering the aerial view of their plans before they were told by the Planning Commission they needed to kind of back away from the watershed protection area, you would look down at their 90,000 square foot arena, and it had a stage there. Stage, boom, pointed at my house. Like, there's a way for them to utilize that watershed protection area that does not endanger the water. Let's just pull that arena to the east, rotate it to where it's pointed at the watershed protection area, which is wooded. And go ahead and let's plant some, what are those big old yew trees, big old tall conifers on either side. Let's put the stage and the arena facing an uninhabited area instead of pointing directly at the whole watershed protection community who have like dedicated our property to peace and quiet. You know, I can't get a building permit for a chicken house over there, but cavalierly, they're being told they got to have 210, about a mile and a half away, 210 parking places that can be paved with asphalt or concrete or some other permissible watershed surface. Well, there's no permissible watershed surface where I live. I can put a pole barn out in my pasture and I put a chicken tin roof on top of it, draining back into a hillside with no pavement under it whatsoever. And that's a violation of the permeable area for a watershed protection. So it seems to be like they're getting cut a lot of slack so far as having a 100-foot buffer between 210 concrete parking places. And I think that whatever Mr. Cabrera does with his property, we'll be proud and glad to have him do it. But the noise is just awful. They had that event. And let me say this about that young lady who just spoke, was talking about 8 events a year. That was from the special event permit. And the reason they had like 80 acres comprised of 4 different tracts of land covered by that permit, because they got 2 special events per year per lot, which made a total of 8 events if they moved the arena around from lot to lot. So, and even then, when they applied for the special use permit, the special event permit, they said 8 or more per year. What y'all are considering now is the special use permit, and during the planning meeting, there were times when they were kind of speaking extemporaneously. They hadn't really thought about it. They were asked by the people on the planning commission, how many events do you think it would be? And I think the first thing they said was 3 or 4 a month, which is more than 8 a year. And they are all a nuisance. They are too loud, and they are pointed at my house. The acoustical audit needs to come to my property line and measure the decibels. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Next speaker, please.
Mr. James Powell.
All right. Take your time, watch your step there now.
Good evening. I'm James Powell. I live on Washington Court, and our main concern is dealing with the sound noises. Listening to what the Planning Commission has suggested and requested that we do, I think most of our concerns will be, I'll say, covered as long as they are strictly enforced. Because I live about a mile from there, and we can hear the music at night. And of course, I went down to the end of the road and I did some checking there, and the music was, you can still hear it there, but when the lady started singing, she has to sing over that for her to be heard. So it was even louder. So that came up there. Now, one thing that we found, that there is, the Rancho Two Dementes has a website on the Facebook, okay? They're planning on 2 events in June, the 17th and the 25th, that they're selling tickets for. And they are also, it looks to me to be clear that they are also planning on having concerts, and that's where the most noise comes from. As far as the rodeo itself, we don't have a problem with that. It's strictly the noise that comes mainly from the music.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming out tonight. Next speaker, please.
Reverend Scott.
Pastor Scott.
Oh, thank you, Commissioners. I'm not going to be long. I'm going to be brief. My main concern is we talked about, the young lady mentioned the quality of life. That's our problem. One of the things that I think has been missed tonight is during the last planning meeting, the Cabreros, and let me lay it out, I have nothing against anybody. Look at me, okay? So I don't have a problem, a racial problem with Mexicans or anybody else. I would love to meet them personally, which I plan to do. But what I'm concerned about, though, is this. The last meeting, during the planning meeting, they laid out for an event between 1,500 and 2,000 people. Our church is less than 300 yards from that location. I know how small that roadway is. And some of the initial events, they haven't had that many people, but once this use permit is granted, then of course what's going to happen is that number is going to increase, and it's going to be a major problem for us. The number of attendees at the event is my main concern. Secondly, and then most importantly, and I'll sit down, there are 2 issues. we've been talking about the rodeo, but that's not the major issue. The issue is the bands and the noise that comes from the bands. So technically what I anticipate is going to happen is we're going to commercialize that agricultural / residential / WP zone, and at some point there will be a request for variance and all of that stuff. But that's what I believe we're leading up to. Now, there was one event, and I'm not knocking anybody, but I'm being honest. There was one event last year that I personally went out on that Sunday morning, and I had to clean up trash and beer bottles off of our property, okay? And so I want to be a good neighbor, as I've said earlier, but at the end of the day, I really hope you all consider the elderly people who live in that neighborhood, the noise level, and the last event they had, I think it was last Saturday or whatever, I intentionally got out of my bed and went by to listen. It was about 9:45, and I don't know how you measure decibels and all of that, but I could hear the bulls and all of that from my location. And so what I would like to say, most of the people I've talked to in the community, I've talked to them about compromise. How many events, if we can determine how many events are they actually planning to hold in a given year? If we can keep that number to a minimum, then I believe that compromise on the side of those people who disagree right now, I would be willing to say, okay, if you're going to keep it to 2 or 3 events a year, that's not going to disrupt the other people in the community, because we're all a part of the community. So we have to consider those people as well as Mr. Cabrera and his group. So if they can tell us, listen, we're going to do it 2 or 3 times, 8 times a year, that's a lot of noise. If you're going to have bands, 3 or 4 bands, one event I think they had 2 or 3 or 4 bands and a rodeo, that is just entirely too much for that residential area. Thank you.
Pastor Scott, don't leave. Thank you. I'd have one quick question. You said last year you had to go and pick up beer bottles and beer cans off the church property?
Yes.
Okay, we're not going to tolerate that.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure clarification on that. So my understanding, the conditions that we've put in place, that the Caballeros will have to have a team to police up that entire area if this passes. I just want to make clear, because one thing we're not going to do is disrespect these people. We're certainly not going to disrespect the house of the Lord. So thank you so much. I just wanted to hear that. I appreciate you. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Stephen Mayo.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And thank you for allowing us to freely speak. Last time I spoke, I think we had 2 minutes. I live approximately 4/10 of a mile from this event on West Hightower. Pictures of my family would verify that any concern about that I would have would be purely due to the venue, not the ethnicity of the Cabreras. I welcome my neighbors, and I look forward to meeting them at some point. My concern is purely about the location. Now understand, as a former pastor, youth pastor, associate pastor, principal of 3 Christian schools, I've spent 8 mission trips down in some of the parts of Mexico where the average American would never see, because that's my love for the Hispanic people. 3 Christian schools and pastoral positions that had over 50 different nationalities within those churches and schools. So you look at my family tree. I've got 2 daughters and 2 black sons-in-law and 4 biracial grandchildren that I would fight anybody over if they tried to hurt them. Doesn't matter how big that giant is. Again, let's talk about the entertainment business location, not the operator. If we can get that out of our mind, nothing to do with the operator himself, the business. I would be opposed to this even if it was my brother. And him, I would guide him around, try to show him other locations he could build besides this. The Code of Rockdale County, Georgia, Subpart B, Planning and Development, blah, 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 get into the 21 points to achieve the purposes of the Unified Development Ordinance. Among these are, and I'm not going to read all of them, so bear with me, to guide and regulate the orderly growth, development, redevelopment, and preservation of Rockdale County in accordance with the adopted comprehensive plan and with long-term objectives, principles, and standards deemed beneficial to the interests and welfare of the people. To protect and establish the character and the social and economic well-being of both private and public property. Emphasis, private and public property. My note, this is not protecting the economic well-being of private property in this area. My property value will drop dramatically. The most valuable asset in my life is not my retirement savings, it's my house, and that is modest by most standards. Code part, or purpose part C, to promote in the public interest the efficient utilization of land. Where's the efficiency here? We have a horse park that can be converted to multi-use easily. If a dome or a stadium can convert to a motocross event, then back to a football stadium, why can't the horse park without having any other separate facility necessary? The second smallest county in Georgia doesn't need it. Let the city of Conyers handle this. They're more equipped with the horse park to make some adaptations for occasional use like this. Build that into your costs. That's part of doing business. D is to promote the preservation of open space. You're taking away an open space that rural life cherishes. G is to facilitate the creation of convenient, attractive, and harmonious community. There's nothing attractive about this when replacing undeveloped or pasture land with this. There's nothing harmonious about this with the community. What's attractive about it? Then we can skip on down to letter M. To ensure the perpetual conservation, preservation, and enjoyment of the unique natural and physical resources of the county, including forested areas, watersheds, streams, view sheds, and archaeological sites, and the protection of water quality as the county grows. Again, the point above. This is an environmental negative. If you put asphalt and concrete and all that there, what is that doing to the watershed? That just means more water has to run off instead of being absorbed. Letter S, to establish a just balance between the rights of owners of property and the public interest of all the citizens of Rockdale County. The property I chose to buy was not in a commercial area, but a rural area. My choice for where I wanted to live. I've been there for 19 years. Prior to that, I lived on the south side of Rockdale. Letter T says to provide for protection of the constitutional rights and obligations of all citizens within the county. Those of us that are opposed to this, again, it's a rural area. We chose to live in a rural area. We invested our monies for property in a rural area because we have the right to the pursuit of happiness. If I wanted to live close to a commercial facility, I would have chosen a place closer to a commercial facility. The Planning Commission and the BOC have a primary focus for using those purposes correctly and for the purpose of the whole county, not just part of it. But especially when it affects one particular community, you focus more on that community. This isn't needed. Years ago, there was a venue somewhere near Salem Road and I-20 that would have rodeos occasionally. And I love to attend those. I love rodeos. Other locations are perhaps more suitable than this that I don't know about. But again, City of Conyers owns the horse park. Why don't they handle this? They can adapt to it. People have said something about the noise. Of the two events that I'm aware of last year, I could have been out of town for one, but the first still had unacceptable noise until nearly 1 a.m. I called the sheriff's department at 12:43 and complained. I thought it was a closer neighbor about 2 doors down from me until I walked out my driveway and saw that music that I was hearing so loudly inside my house wasn't coming 2 doors down, it was almost half a mile down the road. How is this beneficial for Rockdale citizens, especially my neighbors and me? How is it beneficial for the lifestyle that we chose when we bought our houses? Humanitarian reasons are also to be concerned here. A number of people in the near area of this proposed area have livestock. What is this noise doing to those people that have livestock around there? You know, if you have any kind of pets, any kind of unusual noise gives them a lot of anxiety. Well, that would include livestock as well that aren't used to hearing this noise. But again, let me summarize it with this. This is not what I signed up for when I bought my house. I deliberately purchased a house in a rural setting, and I ask you to reconsider. I'm not against the rodeo venue itself, and I'm definitely not against the Cabreras as neighbors. I highly respect them, and I appreciate them being in our community. It's the business. It just does not fit this particular location. It should be near to the interstate and other commercial interests. So ask yourself, bottom line, why? Why here? Not should it be, but should it be here? Why here? I'm not opposed to this type of venue at all. I do expect it to be in a more appropriate area. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Steve Bowden.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. First, personal comment. James, don't get away before you leave. We're old co-workers. I didn't see him here earlier. So I live on Hightower Trail in between 20 and 138. I measured it today because I wanted to know. So I am 2 miles away from the venue. At the last event, we also had loud music at our home. If this were a few times a year, I can kind of see the arguments on both sides. But that also means that those are a few times a year I can't enjoy being outside in my property and have guests over at my house because I have noise in, ambient noise in the area. So I think that's an infringement on, and I'm 2 miles away. So I think the people that are right around it, that's even more of an infringement on them. If we're looking at more than 8 events a year, the problem just accelerates. I would say as far as why not the horse park should really be our question. The horse park was built for the 1996 International Olympics and can hold 20 to 50,000 people a day. Why is it sitting idle so much? So I think we should ask that. I think that's a valid question. And it's just a few miles away from the Cabreras property. My biggest concern, other than noise, initially I was concerned about the watershed. My understanding before tonight was everything north of Hightower was watershed in its entirety. From the maps y'all put out, that's not true. I guess their property is bisected. Some of it is not watershed, some is. My property is all watershed, so. But anyways, I think the concerns about protecting the watershed are valid, and we need to think about that. We're talking tonight about this permit, but through the years, additional development is going to continue to push that edge. And so I would be concerned about that for that reason. And last, traffic. I think everybody that travels it knows that Georgia 20 and Hightower Trail is an extremely dangerous intersection. We've been expecting a light there for 20 years, and we still don't have one. We hear talk about a roundabout that's coming at some point in time at the cost of millions of dollars when a traffic light would solve the problem. So I think having nothing to do with their property, until we introduce so much more traffic in the area, the county has the responsibility to address that intersection and make that intersection safe on a daily basis. So those are my biggest concerns. There's other things that I think other people have addressed, but I appreciate the time to be here and to speak with you. And I do appreciate you bringing a business to our county. And so it's just, I think several people have mentioned, it's more of the, how do we do this? How do we let you have your business and at the same time not impact the area? So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Next speaker, please.
Miss Donna Browning.
Please take your time, watch your step.
Pomp and circumstance.
I thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I do live on Hightower Trail also. I am in the watershed. I have actually come to you before, and Commissioner, and asked you to consider marketing the whole area up there for agriculture and equine. I didn't get very far with you, but I tried. And I appreciate your comment, Ms. Washington, about the horse park. I actually lobbied on behalf of the horse park and was on the advisory committee when it was initiated back in the 90s. I am very proud of the horse park, and the Cabreras have not really explored that at all. I called the horse park. They have 2 to 3 rodeos a year there. They are well equipped to handle that. They have a 4-lane road. I offered to take Mr. Fidel over to the horse park to show him and have a personal tour of the horse park, and that is still something that I would be happy to arrange. I think a for-profit party is not appropriate in this area. 2 miles away, I still hear the noise. I had company last Saturday. They all said, "What in the world is that noise?" It was about 4 o'clock. It was really very aggravating to have that. I have peacocks. They screamed all night long, and it was really upsetting to the livestock, as someone pointed out. I'd like for you to know that also this is an unsanctioned, unregulated, unofficial rodeo. A Mexican rodeo is totally different than an American rodeo. And there are rules and regulations by the Georgia Department of Agriculture that oversee livestock. If you put your horse in a trailer, you better have the right papers or you are in trouble. The horse park checks those papers when you come in at most of the horse shows. I'd like to know how they're going to make sure that these animals are vaccinated so that me, as a horse owner, does not have to worry about disease coming into the community because nobody is paying attention to the laws and the regulations of Georgia. We're also coming in from out of state, a whole different set of regulations. You have to have health certificates, you have to have different papers. So I think that's something that you need to consider when you just allow this to happen here. I question also why there's a need for 42 police presence over there. That seems like an awful lot for a peaceful, quiet afternoon event. I would like to also question the use of a Texas veterinarian versus a Georgia veterinarian who is more acquainted with a lot of our rules and regulations. I'm sure they're different from community to community. There's been a lot of talk about compromise. If you do, and I want you to know, by the way, most of the people up here in this area, we love our land. This is my dream. We're not a coalition. We're a bunch of neighbors who are concerned and worried, and we think this is the wrong event. It's the wrong place, particularly when we have a world-class Georgia International Horse Park less than 5 miles away. I would like to, if you do compromise and you do allow it, I would like to make sure that they have a limited number. We ought to maybe even consider a limited capacity. There is a veterinarian on site the whole time. The 10 p.m. curfew or cutoff has to be enforced. You cannot. And these people, we're not antagonistic at all. I really resent the fact that someone has indicated that we're against Mexicans. That is not true at all. We're a group of people who own land, who love our property. We look into our community, we spend all our time on our land. A lot of us don't even know each other. We've never met each other until this has come up and we had a sign out there and I'm like, what in the world? But I hope you will put severe limitations on it if indeed you do approve it, and it's my hope that you won't. There's one more point that I want you to consider, really the Cabreras to consider. There was some question about the charity that they would donate money to, and they said something about, the police, and I don't know what police organization they were suggesting, but something that would help us all in the North Rockdale area, if they would consider a donation to something that's very near and dear to all of our hearts up here, and that's the Haynes Watershed Foundation. And I think a $25,000 donation there would go a long way toward helping the watershed and the protection of the watershed, because we all want good water, and we know that there are some issues developing there that need attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Daniel Forrester. I'm sorry, Mr. Daniel Forrester.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak. My main objective is noise level. I knew of the event, but I hadn't thought about it. Before I went to bed, I went outside, let my dogs out, and it was after 11, and the music is going strong. That's an hour past when they were supposed to have shut down. I just think that is unacceptable. It should have been shut down. I rode by the place to see what was going on, and I saw at least 3 police cars with the lights going, sheriff's department's cars. Nobody was deciding to shut it down, and it was supposed to have been shut down at 10 p.m. So I just think it was a violation, and it should have been shut down. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for coming out tonight. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Brad Fox.
Mr. Fox.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. I'm loath, just want to make it clear, I'm loath to tell anyone what to do with their property. You know, I have property. I don't like people telling me what to do with mine. I don't want to tell these gentlemen what to do with theirs. But the idea of having a festival 8 times a year, maybe 12 times a year, from 10 in the morning until 10 at night, this is an all-day concert. It's unnecessary. If I live next to Chastain, I know I'm going to have loud music from 8 o'clock till 11 o'clock, whenever there's a concert. And so it's really the noise. And the 65 decibels, I don't know what that is. You know, if that's for a rock concert, that's unacceptable. We're not a music venue. If they want a rodeo, have a rodeo. We aren't going to hear your bulls. You know, just kill the music. It's all we're asking.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming out tonight. Next speaker, please.
I apologize. There's only one name, Donald. Donald.
Okay, come on up, sir.
Good evening.
First of all, I'd like to say I live in northeast Rockdale, spent most of my life there growing up, and I chose to do so and continue my life as well as my family's life for the peace and quiet and tranquility. But the last year, 6 months to a year, it seems like I live at Woodstock. You know, I live a mile and a half away, and me and my wife, we have a sunroom on the back of our house that we like to sit out there in the evening and watch TV, you know. But the noise is so loud. My wife, she's got 2 hearing aids. She takes those out, and it's still loud, you know. And the glass on the sunroom, some of it vibrates, you know, due to the noise, you know. And it's like the commissioner said there, we have a horse park that can handle the type of activities they want to do. You know, it's got a 4-lane road. You know, there's no houses, you know, close by, you know. And I feel like if this is allowed to pass, that it would be doing unjust to me and my family as well as the citizens of northeast Rockdale County.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming out tonight. Next speaker, please.
Mr. George Kelichek.
Call the speaker again.
Mr. George Kelichek.
Okay.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners, citizens of Rockdale County. As Frederick Douglass quoted, if there is no struggle, there is no success. We've got a lot of struggle going on here tonight. And I think we have some dynamic citizens along with employees at the City of Conyers, along with you all. So, as you know, I do a lot of due diligence before I speak. Let me point out a few things that I've researched over the last few days. The applicant, based upon our information, was permitted to sell beer and wine. Ladies and gentlemen, I went to the spot. I have a picture here. I'm going to give 2 folders of all this information to let you all have of all this research. I have a picture of a beautiful table full of liquor bottles. They broke the law. They abused the permit. How can you trust somebody that does not pay attention to the permit and breaks the law? Period. As I read through the executive summary that they provided to the Planning and Zoning Commission in Rockdale County, maintaining of the natural character of the city of Conyers, this is Rockdale County that they're talking about. So that was one mistake. Number 2, they said they were going to create lots of jobs. What does that mean? How many? Business growth. Yes, this is a self-contained commercial business for profit. Another item on the executive summary, help boost Rockdale economy. Well, while I was at the event throughout a certain time period, people would come in, watch, and leave. Did they provide any dollars to Rockdale County economy? They used all of our infrastructure. It is our understanding that there was Rockdale County sheriff staff there. Were they off duty, or were they on duty and paid by taxpayer dollars? Under the justification of their request in the summary, the county's wastewater system capacity there, it is commercial. This is a commercial adventure, and it's a commercial enterprise requiring, if we get to this point, a commercial septic system. Stormwater management. By the way, I'm the chairman of the Rockdale Soil Water Conservation District, and I'm also the founder of the Haynes Watershed Foundation. How will the animals' fecal matter be collected, stored, and disposed of properly to protect the citizens and our environment here in Rockdale County and the Haynes watershed? I would certainly suggest, and we will be working through this process with the county, or however it turns out, we would look at 2 layers of wire back silt fence along with hay bales, so no type of fecal matter and or dirty stormwater would be entering the watershed. This project would create an adverse effect on the natural environment. If you have 1,000 to 2,000 people coming in and you only have 210 parking paved spaces, I would have to question that. First of all, it's about 3 football fields, and you're looking at a great impervious surface, and that rainwater would be running off there very quickly if we don't put up the appropriate type of infrastructure to protect the watershed. Facts. I spent time with the Georgia Department of Agriculture over the last 2 days because this is sanctioned through and governed by the Georgia Department of Agriculture. First of all, we inquired to see if there was a permit requested by the Cabreras, the applicant, and there was no permit requested and or provided to the Cabreras for this event. Again, this is through the Georgia Department of Agriculture. ADA compliant. Would the plan have sidewalks? Because I tell you what, you try to walk on a walker or a wheelchair in grass that's uneven, that's not ADA compliant. Went to the site, like I said, there was liquor on site. I was offered a $40 scalped ticket. That's inappropriate. If you charge X amount, that's what you charge. They offered me a $40 scalped ticket. So I don't know how their organization is performing. Yes, the music was on after 10 p.m. This event is not sanctioned by the American Professional Rodeo Association, which requires a $1,000 permit per year to become a permanent member. Also, the Rodeo Association, they are not a member of. Both of these associations offer professional training on how to run a rodeo and also professional business practices. Annually, the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association sanctions 650 rodeos in 38 states. There are no records through our due diligence regarding the applicant belonging to this association. So if they want to be in the rodeo business, I believe they need to have the appropriate type of training. The Journal of Emergency Medicine, October 2021, volume 61, issue 4, reported over 408 adolescent injuries and over 17,363 nationally. This would definitely place a burden on the EMA, the 911 system. Is Rockdale County Hospital ready to accept these types of injuries? The highest percentage of injuries in rodeos are head and neck injuries. They can kill you. Do we want to subject ourselves, our children, and our grandchildren to witness these types of injuries and burden our infrastructure while the applicant is receiving 100% of all income? I would have to say that the Georgia Department of Agriculture states, all livestock transported or otherwise moved into the state shall be accompanied by a bill of official certificate of veterinary inspection or permit, or both, attached to the waybill, or shall be in the possession of the driver of the vehicle or person in charge of the livestock. I did not see anybody there checking any permits. Now, on interstate highways in the state of Georgia, there are inspection stations, but not on Georgia highways or county roads. So we have to watch ourselves. Are we doing due diligence from a Georgia Department of Agriculture law? A copy of the official certificate of veterinary inspection shall be forwarded to the state veterinarian at the Georgia Department of Agriculture in downtown Atlanta. I went there. There was none of this information at the Georgia Department of Agriculture regarding the applicant. In closing, what I'll say, I think we have a collaborative effort here, and I think it is between the City of Conyers and Rockdale County. We have a nice facility that, yes, it is owned, quote unquote, by the City of Conyers, but let us challenge ourselves. And as Commissioner Washington says, and, let us sit down with the Cabreras and the City of Conyers and utilize the infrastructure that is already set up to provide a professional rodeo. Ask these folks to go through the appropriate training and join the association so they can be professionally trained by the individuals. So in that, I will leave you with it, and I will leave you with this research that we did over the last few days regarding the requirements. And again, it's very sensitive, and we have to work with the Georgia Department of Agriculture on this, not only for the environment, but for the safety of the citizens throughout this great state of Georgia. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Mr. Aaron Wright.
All right, take your time, watch your step.
Thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity to address you and to be heard on this subject. I'll be very brief. My concern is very much the noise. With this discussion being ongoing, while this discussion was being had, there was an event held recently. My wife and I live half a mile or so away from where the event was held. We could hear the noise at night. We could hear it after 10 o'clock. It disturbed our sleep. It upset our dog. If I had confidence that there was in fact going to be some reduction in noise, some real steps taken to prevent disturbance in the neighborhood, I wouldn't be here today. But as this discussion is ongoing, as this is under scrutiny, they can't turn off the noise at 10 o'clock. They can't keep the noise from leaving their property. I don't have to go to the rodeo. The rodeo comes to me. And that's where the problem is. If this was contained, if this was quiet, honestly, if it got quiet at 10 o'clock, it wouldn't be a problem for me. I can stay up a little bit late. I respect the right of people to use their property as they want. I simply ask that we be given the same opportunity to enjoy our property in quiet and in peace, be able to sleep at night without hearing sounds emanating from half a mile away. One of the people speaking in favor mentioned that she could hear the sounds 3/4 of a mile away. I would put it to you that that's too loud. Even if it didn't bother that particular speaker, that's too loud. I have faith that the other issues can be addressed, but I'm just terribly concerned about the noise, and I would ask that there be some sort of enforcement mechanism if this is granted, some way for citizens who can hear the noise, who are being bothered by it, to enforce these restrictions instead of them sitting in a portion of the code that's going to be ignored. So that would be my request, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for coming out tonight. Deputy Director Wheeler, where are we now? Will that be the last speaker for tonight?
Yes, sir. That is the last speaker for tonight on this
Very good.
application.
I'm so glad that we had many people to come out and everyone had an opportunity to speak. We still have much business to take up tonight. Where are we with this matter before we move forward?
We have rebuttal time from the applicant. You have allowed both sides to speak. Do you have anything else to address the board with? Okay, then it closes out this item.
Okay, all right, very good. Okay,
Do you want to take a moment and let people leave, or do we want to go to the next item?
let's go to the next item.
Okay, next item.
The next item before you is RZ case 23-06.
We'll hold tight for the transition. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out. Be safe tonight. Have a good evening. Certainly appreciate your feedback tonight. Thank you so much. We'll give them an opportunity to transition out so we can hear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's resume our meeting.
Again,
gentlemen in the back, if you would go ahead and Deputy, if you would just escort those folks on out, we're going to go back to the meeting, get them out of here. That'll be great. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, let's move forward.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is RZ case 23-06. The address is 0 Northeast Clark, 0 Northeast Bermuda Drive, Northeast Clark Street, and 0 Southeast Salem Road, Conyers, Georgia. Applicant is Alliance Industry Company and Smith and Gambrell and Russell LLP. The applicant is seeking to rezone the subject property from R1 to M1 for the development of 152,880 square foot warehouse. The applicant again is requesting the development of an industrial warehouse. A few items of note. The applicant is indicating that there will be 2 vehicle access points along Old Covington Road and North Salem Road. Driveways accessing entry points will be 30 feet wide. Truck loading docks are going to be on the rear side of the subject property, while employee parking will be on the front side. There will be a stormwater pond to the south of the property, adjacent to the wetlands. The applicant stated that the glazing elements and storefront of the elevations will be where the offices will be located to incorporate a more warehouse front facade. The application did recommend, the Planning Commission did recommend denial of this application. Again, the applicant is looking to develop a 152,880 square foot warehouse. The current zoning for the subject property is R1. The future land use for the subject property is light industrial. Again, the applicant did not submit any elevations, but however, we were able to find a similar product that the applicant is proposing. As you can see, the current elevations to your right. Just another note, the dumpsters will be located in the rear, adjacent to the loading docks, and not to be visible from the adjacent residential property. Concerns that employees will have access, will have to cross the truck and court to empty the trash. With all our applications, again, staff has reviewed it. Again, the application is meeting all developmental standards for the M1 zoning district. As you can see on the screen before you. Again, with all our staff reports, so staff has provided analysis of each application. The applicant has met approval for all conditions. So therefore, staff did recommend conditions if the board chooses to approve this.
Okay. All right. Anybody speak on this?
The applicant is approaching.
Okay. All right. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, I'm Kathy Sickert with Smith, Gambrell, and Russell, and I represent Alliance Industrial, who's the applicant herein. The only correction I'd like to make to what Chris just said is that this property is not all R1 at the moment. It's an assemblage of 4 separate properties, and 3 of them already, in fact, are zoned M1.
I apologize.
That's quite all right. I just wanted to make it clear that we're not trying to rezone the entire piece. Some of it is already zoned. This is, as he stated, for a 153,000 approximately size, what we would call a end mile warehouse, which is, or last mile, if you've heard it referred to as that. That is the kind of a center where there are goods delivered to it, and then those goods in turn are dispersed out into the immediately surrounding community. I am not at liberty to tell you who the interested party is. However, I can give you a model that this would fit, which is, in fact, Amazon. So that would give you an idea in terms of what kind of facility it would be. Goods would be delivered in, and then there would be deliveries from that facility out to the surrounding community. There are a number, as you are familiar, I'm sure, of light industrial properties in this immediate vicinity. In fact, effectively, we are surrounded by them. We have industrial and a church basically to the northeast of us. And then we have the CSX Railroad and all of the development around Old Covington that is to our south. And then to our east, we also have industrial development. There is a neighborhood which is immediately to our southwest of the property. We did meet with those folks, and thus far no one has appeared from that community to offer any kind of objections. It is my personal practice that I don't file an application until I've met with the community. I think that makes sense. I think it's only fair to get out there and try and explain what your project is going to be so that people will know what is coming. And we in fact set a community meeting for early January. We sent out 78 invitations, and all within a 500-foot radius of the property. We had about 20 people participate, and met personally with a number of those, as well as with Pastor I want to make sure I get my name right, Philip Baker of the First Grove Baptist Church, who is immediately adjacent to us. And I am delighted to report that he in particular, given his ties to the community, does in fact support this application. And you should have in your packet a letter to that effect in which he is recommending that you do in fact approve it. We have performed a traffic study, and we have confirmed that there will be no negative impact in terms of traffic. Chris, would it be possible for you to put the site plan back up? Can you all see that even? Sort of? Kind of, sort of? Okay, if you look at the site plan, you will see that there are two curb cuts. One goes out to North Salem and one goes to Old Covington. The other thing I wanted to emphasize to you is that Old Covington will be right in, right out only, and we expect that to be used for commuter traffic, the people who work here. We are not expecting it to be used to truck traffic. Our primary truck entrance is in fact on North Salem Road. The land that we have that goes out past the church to Old Covington is very, very narrow. It's approximately 85 feet wide. And so by the time you put in a 75-foot buffer, since the church is zoned residential and the immediately adjacent property is residential, there would be no land left to develop. So we understand that we will have to seek a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals. You all don't do concurrent variances, and we recommend or recognize the fact that that is not something you can approve and are not asking you to approve it at this time. But we are perfectly happy as a condition of this application to limit the curb cuts in terms of the access so that we're not creating problems. We do have a number of conditions upon which we are in total agreement. There were, however, a few changes, and I'm frankly not quite sure where we stand with those at this point in time. But basically, the changes that we wanted to make related first to condition number 2. If you can look at condition number 2, originally we had requested that the change be that the elevations would be presented at building permit stage. Mr. Wheeler actually suggested that be done at building permit, and we, although initially asked for it to be changed, we're perfectly fine for it to stay at building permit. So that would be something that we would acquiesce to. Everything else seems to be fine, so that we don't need any changes to the conditions as drafted, other than some minor technical details, which I'm hoping are also in the packet that we provided to you. With all of that said, I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Alliance Industrial is by no means a newcomer to the Atlanta market. With me this evening is Edwin Thurman, who, can you wave your hand or something? Who is my representative. So if you have questions about them, he will be happy to try and answer those if I can't. And other than that, we would just ask you to accept the staff's recommendation and approve the application. I'd like to reserve any remaining time I might have for rebuttal.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Washington?
I don't have any questions at this time, but I would like to say that when I reached out to Pastor Baker to find out his thoughts on it, he was so refreshing to know that you all had already been out there.
Yeah.
Had already had the community meeting, had talked to him about the concerns for the community and the church, and he was very complimentary.
Thank you.
The fact that you all really listened to his concerns, I appreciate that. And I would say I'm not normally in favor of warehouses, but I am in favor of people coming in and partnering and listening to our community and then going back and making sure that the needs of the community are met in their community.
And as I said, that's my personal practice as well. I don't believe in trying to just foist something on people and file an application without anyone knowing about it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Williams?
So I had a conversation with Pastor Baker, too.
He's been busy.
And he was very much impressed with what you have done, what you're proposing, and the assistance you're proposing to give to the church. And so, like Commissioner Washington said, we appreciate it when there's communication before the meetings.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have no questions. We appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone signed up to speak?
We have people to speak in opposition, but no one besides the applicant.
All right, let's call them up.
All right.
First person to speak in opposition is Mr. John Hester.
Come on up, Mr. Hester.
Good evening, Commissioner. Good evening, Commissioners.
Good
everybody. Thank y'all for this opportunity. Your opening statements about the transparency of these meetings was kind of enlightening, because my family's been coming to them since 1952 when sheriff deputies drugged the Shady Grove community residents out of here, well, out of the other hall, for demanding Buchanan fix our houses. You know, but I must start with, I'm an ordained deacon at Shady Grove Baptist Church. Shady Grove doesn't attend Shady Grove Church anymore. Partly I didn't, because I'm an uppity N-word from Philip Baker. And as the accountant, I'm a web accounting software designer, and I was the accountant at the time I was a deacon. And let's just say my knowledge of, 56 church organizations, and I worked for Sage, world's largest small business accounting software. I'm the senior consultant. I know accounting. I know I left Shady Grove because Philip Baker's accounting should be investigated.
Well, I'll tell you what I want to do tonight. I want to talk about this issue that's.
Oh yeah, but I want to get
Pastor Baker's. So let's go.
Oh no, I know.
Stay with me. Stay with me. I want you to hear what I'm saying. Okay. Mm-hmm. We've been here a long time. I'm gonna let you get out your concerns about your opposition, Deacon. Get them out. Okay. Let's go.
All right, but I am concerned that a non-resident of the community, the county, or the city, and someone who's the community considers to be adversarial, that I just want to make sure not so much weight is given to what someone not from us says. And I will get to the most important thing is we've had enough. I'm gonna speak on my 11 years as an environmental technical engineer, and I was S3 at the 101st Airborne during my military time. And if you didn't know what S3 did is, you know when it's called TAC fire spots a satellite mission in another country somewhere, someone has to decide it's safe to attack that or not. That's what I did. And part of my decision was what kind of ordinance and what is it gonna carry in the air to the people we didn't intend. And I will say, the Shady Grove community, we've had enough. Remember, our people are from the Ponders, the Costleys, all of our great mulatto grandmamas were Costleys and Ponders and the Hesters from the monastery when it was a plantation. We've always been here. We've never been our ancestors were in Africa, then they were in this area. That's the only place we've ever been. And I must say, our time in this organization has been very adversarial from the cutting through the community of Old Covenant Road. I don't know if you know Old Covenant Road, but the front yards are shorter than me to you. The house that is most affected at the corner of, Bermuda and Old Covington Road, the house that sits next to the church, it's most affected, have to use the backyard. The place they want to put this road is where a couple hours ago, the boys had to go retrieve the football from, because with Covington Road put through the properties, you can't play in the front yard. The children are in the backyard. And now it's going to be also dangerous if the ball goes over the fence in the back. that has always been a wooded area our entire lives. It was enough to encapsulate the community around development when it's time for the rest of the county to take some of this commercial because it's toxic. I know for a fact that the levels and the time, it's 24 hours a day. We have more pollution than downtown Atlanta at times because cities get a relief after business hours. It's like, these are 24 hours. I was waking up this morning by one of those, and it's a hill, which means when they come from a standstill at that light with all those chemicals from the chemical plant in Golden State, I saw a ammonia truck for their refrigeration, and all the other chemicals are driven right past our communities, fuming. I don't know if you've ever been behind one of that air plant trucks, but some of them are off-gassing in our community right there. And that's to the east where it started, where we have everything from to our west, we have Biolab. We have the old Vantage Place, and they had proper proline glycol machines in there that are still there and are still polluting our area, and we're in the airstream from that far away. And that's to our west. To our east is the only fresh air corridor we have. If anyone who knows volatile organic compounds, hydrocarbons, and the vapor density of these chemicals would understand that our only protection is natural, which means when they brought Covenant Road through, no engineered protections. When they cut down all those trees for Walmart, and suddenly we could, for the first time in our generations, could hear the highway, no sound protections. When they put the chemical plant to our west and Golden State with all its chemicals, no engineered protections. When they put that 100-bay warehouse at the corner of G's Mill and Old Covenant Road, no engineered protections. When they brought the railroad through in the back of Shady Grove, zero engineered protections. When they built the exit, you kind of get what I'm saying is we haven't received zero protection from this body. That it seems adversarial, like you hate us or something. You don't do this to a community. I mean, as I was researching, because David Flory, he lives in Conyers. He's one of America's lead. That's who I work for at Environmental. He's one of the leading people. Said, I don't know how you all live there. You're gonna die. And I'm gonna get the reports from him and send them to you all in email. But the leading environmentalist says they're trying to kill you, and they meant this board and these people. But with these, what they don't understand, we kind of saw a hint of it with the Biolab fire, because I'm pretty sure those Conyers police, if that officer that's here talked to the officers who were around back then, there was a guy in level A, the whole military spacesuit and air tanks, were driving around giving M9 masks to the Conyers police that were up on West Avenue and 138.
Mr. Hester, listen to me.
This is all relevant. This is relevant.
I ask you to listen to me. I believe that everything that you're saying is relevant. You have a lot of history and a lot of heritage about the community. Well, this board right here is not negating any of that. Tonight, we're not making a decision. We're listening and we're processing it. You've been redundant in everything that you said, and it's valid. But I'm going to ask that you will go ahead and wrap up your presentation so we can take it for what it's worth, we can get to the next item, and we can continue to process our decision. Can I ask you to do that, Deacon?
That is what I'm doing. It wasn't redundant. It is, if you look at it.
I just don't want to have to interrupt you and shut you off. I'm asking you to go ahead now. This is from me to you. Wrap it up so we can get what you can get out what you need to say. We can get wrapped up and go to the next point, because you've done a fantastic job articulating what you're trying to say. Thank you so much.
But it all should be said, because no one can tell me why we have buildings 13 feet from our house when this board told us they would be 200 feet. And we just want to know that of, how can we trust this when all of our history, this has been a lie to us, is the main thing I want to know. But elevation is an environmental protection. And I'm going to be submitting a ton of stuff once the federal people get back with me on protections, sound barriers, dust barriers, the whole 9 yards. But this facility should not be built at all. It's a community. We have the successful stores down there are the community gas station, which was our only convenience store for 40 years. And every one of 100% of all of the industrial shops next to it failed until we got the canteen, the restaurant and grocery store next to that. Community stuff, not business district stuff. That's what's succeeding around us. But our only protection, this board has not protected us
Mr. Chairman,
for
that's
50.
time. This time, the 10 minutes is up.
Thank you, Mr. Hester.
I think everybody's.
You took the collective 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Hester.
All
Thank
we
you
get
so
is
much.
10 minutes for the whole neighborhood?
It will be up to the chairman to extend the time. You've had yours. Please have a seat. Thank you. We have to get to the next speakers. Thank you. Would you like to allow 10 more minutes?
Thank you. We're moving on. Is there another speaker?
Yes, sir. Joycelyn Burnett.
Okay, come on up, ma'am.
Hey, how y'all doing? I oppose because right now in our neighborhood on 2081, I live on 2081 Old Covington Road. I mean, it is traffic back and forth, the air product truck, the dark trucks. You can hear that all day, all night. And where they're talking about putting the road at for the people to come in to work, that's right behind me. And it would be right in front of my neighbors that behind me is 2 houses back there. So this road would go right down in front of their house with their kids out there.
And what is your address again?
2081 Old Covington Road. I'm 2 doors down from the church.
Okay, thank you.
And if they put that bill in there, I know we're gonna have a ton of traffic. We already got too much traffic now, even for the kids on one side of the street to cross over to go to the playground. That shouldn't even be happening because it's just too much traffic. And right now, I'm telling you, I live right there. Behind me is my neighbor, 2 houses, and it's about 4 houses back there where they want to bring that road down that hill through the neighborhood. We shouldn't have a road for employees or anything coming through that neighborhood. I mean, it's a neighborhood. We already have buildings on one side of us with cars and everything outside the road. It's hard to turn from G's Mill to come down Old Covington. So we already have all of that we can't see. And then we got another truck place on the other end of us. And across next to the playground, it's already I guess junk cars they put in there. They already got that right next to the playground where the kids are. So to have this building back there, that's just gonna tear up our community with all the traffic, all the noise, people that's coming through. Right now, I can sit in my house without my doors locked. I don't have to lock them. I can take a nap with them unlocked. But I don't know if I can do that once they get all these different cars and people coming through now.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Next speaker, please.
Ms. Felicia Jackson.
Okay, all right. Is there another speaker? Thank you so much.
Ms. Donna Roberts.
Well, come on up to the microphone, sir. I gotta do this. Take your time and come on up to the mic.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Mr. Donna Roberts.
All right, my name is Dana Roberts. I'm not gonna take you through the same thing. But to close down a residential neighborhood by running, by the wells, you see a commercial street through the houses, which you go over here on 138, in the big houses and run one through there, we need a place to live. I'm 63 years old, I've been here all my life. Now I'm running here right now. I might not have a place to live, but to move back to my neighborhood would be an honor. But for y'all to go in and run a road down through there and cut off everything we got down through there to live in. I'm not gonna say I don't want you to put the building where you're putting it, but take the street back on Salem Road where all this traffic already is. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Last person is Ms. Teresa J. Rolock.
Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Same way my brothers and sisters were.
Well, you take your time. Take your time.
My name is Teresa Rolack. I'm from Shady Grove. That would be Old Cape Town Highway and Salem Road, Buchanan Circle.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't agree with the buildings either. I grew up in that neighborhood. My kids grew up in that neighborhood. My grandkids and my great-grandkids. They all grew up there.
You leaning like your sister and brother to lean to the other way, to that
I
microphone.
can't lean it that way.
So I can hear you.
I'm gonna have to step over this way.
Yeah.
So I step on this side. But yes, we all grew up in that neighborhood. From the playground that you've been to, the church that you've been to, my grandmother grew up in that church.
Yes, ma'am.
I grew up in that church. My kids did. As I said, my grandkids, my sisters and brothers, we all went there. So yes, we know Pastor Baker a little bit. And love my pastor, but he doesn't live in my neighborhood. This building doesn't belong in my neighborhood. Only reason the buildings are there now on East Side is because we did not have knowledge. Our parents and grandparents didn't know about the rezoning meetings. If they had known, I'm pretty sure they would have stopped the buildings. We're breathing air, we're breathing stuff that we don't even know what we're breathing. This disability I got could have came from it. I don't know. So why put another building, and I got grandkids and great-grandkids that's growing up there to go through the same problem. I got kids that grew up there. Some of them are here and some of them aren't. Grandkids, some of them here, some of them aren't. It could have came from something in the air. So we don't need another building. If you're gonna build us anything, put some apartments, low-income apartments, not those $300,000 apartment townhouses y'all build, but some low-income apartments for the people to get in to be able to move into. Low-income houses. Put something like that in there. Come and clean all them trees out. That the people that own the land don't even come to look at. They come through our neighborhood, throw trash out up the street, right up the street from me. But we got a camera that the code enforcer says they can get the people that put trash out. I never seen them do it. Whatever leaves they got in their yard, they bag them up, come up there and throw them out. That's not a trash, it's not a dumpster, it's a neighborhood. A family neighborhood. We love each other. When something happens to one, it happens to all of us, not just one. So this building that they're building, we don't need it. Because right now where they at, it was it used to be a concrete company. Years ago, it's gone. Where they're going through behind my church, that's my church. I was there for Pastor Baker. Where they're going through behind my church, my aunt has property back there. Her brothers and stuff have property back there. And we have other people back there. With kids and without kids. And as my sister said, we can sleep with our doors open. But if you bring all this in and you got all these people coming around, well, you better lock your doors and put some more locks on them.
All right.
But we don't need this. So think about the houses, low-income houses that people can be buying. Not 300,000 though, not 500,000. We can't afford those.
Thank you
Put
so much.
something in there we can use.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're
ma'am.
welcome, and thank you for
Appreciate
listening.
Yes, ma'am. Appreciate you coming out tonight too. Is there another speaker?
No, sir, that's it.
Can I ask a question? And I know I could read, but what's the future land use for this?
Oh, light industrial.
I'm sorry?
Light industrial.
And what, all of the surrounding properties are what?
Current zoning right now is you have a mixture of light industrial and residential. I can pull it back up really quick. So right here is the subject property. So as currently, this is parcel that is currently zoned light industrial, and all the other parcels are residential. To the left, you can see that it has a future land use category of light industrial, or industrial, I should say. The entire block is being classified as industrial.
Thank you.
Are there any other business related to this matter?
I believe the applicant did have time for rebuttal.
Well, if there's anything you want to say, you can. If you want to summarize, you can do that.
I would like for you to address some of the concerns.
Sure.
I mean, because they're very valid concerns about putting roads through people's homes, their property, the environmental concerns. They are very concerned about their quality of life that this kind of development would bring. So I would like for you to take this opportunity to address some of those
Sure,
concerns.
I'll be happy to. Let me point out, first of all, that the vast majority of this property is already zoned for this use. So if we cut out the piece that isn't, it could be developed without any conditions whatsoever. Instead, we have tried to do a development which we think is responsible. And the important part of it in terms of impact to the community is that we have pulled the building all the way back to the railroad tracks. There is another industrial truck operation between us and Old Covington. I'm sure you're familiar with that area. And then the junkyard that was just described is further across the street from that. So even though there may be residential zoning that is next to us, it is already developed industrial, and it's developed for M2 uses, what would ordinarily go in M2. So what we are doing is not what I would call nearly as harsh a use. In fact, it's a soft industrial use is how it would be categorized in the industry. We are not putting new roads through anything. We are coming off of existing roads, and we did submit a traffic study which confirmed that the volume of traffic would be not negligible in terms of its impact and could be certainly accommodated by existing roads without any improvements. So we're not putting in something that's going to have a bunch of traffic that is going up and down the road that would perhaps create a need for a signal or something else. That's already been ascertained by the traffic study. In terms of the harshness of ammonia trucks, which I understand fully, in terms of the harshness of industrial uses in the area, I also understand fully, but they're all there. I am not creating them. They exist now, and if there is a promise that was made in the past as to how far a road was supposed to be to these folks, or where the city of Conyers was supposed to stop its development, we're not responsible for that. We're not doing that. We're not running a road through this subdivision at all. And as I said to you, we might not even be able to get that curb cut approved, depending upon whether the Board of Zoning Appeals agrees with us that there is a hardship that justifies a variance. So that's not even a guarantee that that's going to happen. All we are asking to do is that you approve something which is clearly contemplated by your comprehensive land use plan and your character area, both. And although there might not have been rezoning hearings that were attended by these folks. I'm sure you all advertised your land use planning process. I'm sure you had multiple public hearings. And I hope that these folks participated and that their concerns were heard and taken into consideration when you all decided to adopt the comprehensive plan that governs this area. That's about the only way I can answer those questions. I think the comments that were made were talking about a number of developments that are considerably further removed. Walmart, as we know, is down by 138. I don't even know how many miles that is from this particular property. I really don't. And this Union Carbide plant or the biomass plant, I think the biomass plant is out on 20, if I'm not mistaken, and it's on the other side of the road that's on the other side of the railroad track. So none of those uses are on this property. They are all further removed, and we have nothing to do with them. Believe me, if I could get local governments to approve affordable housing, I would be doing it. It is a cause near and dear.
Well, listen, if you have an affordable housing plan, please come talk to me because
I will.
I just spent 5 hours today talking about affordable housing.
I have a number of developers who do nothing but the low-income housing tax credit projects, and I will be happy to bring them in. But this site isn't appropriate for that either, because if you're going to create an enclave of lower income housing in the midst of an industrial development, I just don't think that's fair. I think you need to be able to put the affordable housing in an area that is commensurate with any other neighborhood. Why stick it in an industrial area?
Right, so one of the things I want to, because the commissioner is on point. She hosted an event today to address all of these concerns, and there's been so many misconceptions out there with the word affordable housing
workforce
versus low-income housing.
Right.
This is not the setting of the time that we'll talk about that, but my recommendation is that you do this. As stated before, we will not be making a decision until June 13th. I want to recommend that you reach back out to Pastor Baker. I think that there's an opportunity to host a community meeting in the church.
Okay.
I think you all should be there in the church, right there in the heart of the community there, and hear from those residents. I think there's an opportunity to clear up some misconceptions as well, because I heard a few things tonight that's not necessarily correct. Having an intimate opportunity there in the church between now and the date we make the decision would be to the best benefit of all parties involved. So I want to make that recommendation.
I will be happy to try. I don't know about his schedule.
Reach out to Pastor Baker.
But I will reach out.
Please do.
I will.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's it for this item.
Is there any other business to take up tonight?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, I was just speaking for this item. No, there's like two more things.
Okay.
Next case on the agenda is SUP case 23-01. This is for a special use permit for a cell tower. The staff is recommending that this go back to the Planning Commission for consideration. They just had their first read this past week.
Okay.
And we do not have anybody signed up for this item, so.
So we can go to the next item.
Next item, please.
All right.
Next item is REZ.
Hang tight. I got a lady raising a hand here.
Good evening, Commission. If I may ask for leniency for 2 minutes. I'm an attorney in another county, and I missed the time to sign up, but I will be very brief in my statement. I'm
And
here.
you're here in reference to which, this issue that we're
The cell
discussing?
tower issue, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I represent the owners of 2400 Tucker Mill Road who are in opposition of this. This is a residence, meaning a house is on this property in which the new owners purchased this home in March and were unaware that this proposal for this cell tower being placed on this property even existed. Furthermore, this is an area that is surrounded by neighborhoods where families and children live. They are all also opposed, specifically the Grayfield Neighborhood Association. Their HOA plans to be at the next meeting that this topic comes up. This is a cell phone tower that they are proposing be less than 3 miles away from Heritage High School. Most of our concern is about the fact that this is a fully residential neighborhood, that they obviously don't have any permission from the homeowners to place this cell tower on their property, and also the health concerns. The The top 3 health concerns of a cell phone tower being in a neighborhood, in a residential neighborhood, is A, dizziness, headaches, memory loss, in addition to heart conditions and cancer. This is extremely concerning to this particular homeowner, considering the fact that his wife just had a massive heart attack in August. Again, this proposal also being less than 3 miles from a high school and right across the street from several neighborhoods. Thank you all for indulging me.
Thank you so much.
So I'm so sorry. You're saying that this cell phone tower you're saying that the people that live around the tower are opposing it, or this is actually on somebody's land?
It is on somebody's land. The people whose land it is attempting to be placed on are opposing it, as well as all of the neighbors.
So, are we hearing you say that the landowner
Correct.
is not in agreement with this tower?
That is correct. The landowner is here.
So
how did they, I don't understand, is the applicant here?
No, okay, so, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I think we'll have our attorney approach the podium. We were not prepared to address this tonight because it was going back to the Planning Commission. So we did not have a formal, and you also didn't sign up to speak for public comment as well, so we didn't have the application. So if we could have Mr. Meeker just approach, clear it up, and move on.
And I'm glad the executive director cleared that up.
Yes.
Complete transparency and clarity.
Yes.
What we need to do is allow this to go back to the Planning Commission. We have time for those who are in opposition to get with the applicant. There's still time. I've been repeating that all night long. This is interesting, but I'm going to stop it right here, and I'm going to suggest that the landowner, our staff, get with whomever the landowner is and make the connection and with the applicant and do the due diligence the way it needs to happen. Director Njoku, we have an opportunity because it's going back to the Planning Commission, and that gives us more than enough time to process it the proper way. Thank you so much.
I understand, and I apologize for that.
No
again,
apology.
I'm an attorney
Thank
in
you so
another
much.
county.
I'm ending it.
The sign was posted on their property, so we appeared based on the posting on the sign.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next case is RZ case 23-05. Site address is 3362 Stanton Road. Applicant is D2 Development Service. The applicant is requesting to rezone the subject property for development of 17 single-family lots. Some of the points of entrance for this, I'm sorry, not entrance, some point of specification interest for the subject for this application is the gross density of 1.73 dwelling units per acre. Minimum lot sizes will be 2,500 per unit with a 2-car garage. The applicant will have 10 guest parking spaces on the subject property. They will also have to do a 10-foot wide buffer adjacent to the AR, as well as they'll have an existing pond on site, as well as a proposed stormwater detention. Again, some of the development standards for this, again, is the minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet, minimum lot width of 70 feet, and a front setback of 20, side yard 7.5, and rear of 25 feet. Again, along with all our applications, we have our development and review standards. Again, the applicant is meeting all of them except for the transitional buffer. If it is approved, the applicant will have to adhere to that transitional buffer as well as the conservation area as well. Again, staff provides all analysis of each application. The applicant has meeting all of them, and so therefore we did recommend approval along with the Planning Commission recommend approval as well with these 15 conditions, sir. And I believe the applicant is here.
He's been here the whole time.
Last but not least.
Yes.
You have the patience of Job. Yes, sir.
It's been interesting. It's been interesting. So I didn't mind being here. Some interesting things. First of all, thank you for having me, and I appreciate being here. My name is Hugh Delaney. I'm with D2 Development Services. This project is one that we've been dealing with for probably a little over a year, just going back and forth, trying to get some things straight. We actually are want to go from AR to CRS. And the reason that we chose that is because we are very aware of the area. We wanted to kind of keep the conservation. We want the land space. We want to make sure that it meets and it meshes well with what's there now. So that was one of the main reasons that we got it. And then plus the owner, he likes to fish, so it's a pond out there. So all of that added in there as well. There'll be actually 17 units on there. And again, we've met all the conservation requirements that are required. We're looking to run sewer. There is, Chris, there's one condition on there with the sewer that I think you guys had originally showed that it was 4,000 feet away or something like that. I did talk with the county wastewater and sewer people. There's actually a manhole that's 1,300 feet that's away from the property. So I'll get that information over to you.
Okay, sir.
And I just spoke with them recently about that. But the homes are going to be 2,500 square feet. They're going to be very technology-driven, smart homes. We are focusing on solar power for the units. And we just want to be good neighbors. And so we definitely feel like what we have really fits the area. And everybody's been very helpful with helping us get this project off the ground. So that's really about all I have for the project.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, any questions or comments for the gentleman?
Yeah, first of all, good evening. Thank you for hanging in there with us. Do we have any renderings? Do we know what the homes are going to look like?
I do. We've picked out some basic units, and again, they're going to be 2,500 square feet. I had
Do you have any renderings, sir?
No, not by the architect. We just kind of
What's
picked
your
out
next
the plans.
question, Commissioner?
But I can get that to you.
We can get those for him. We can put those in the packet.
I had another question. I can't think of. They'll ask a question I'll remember. So.
Okay.
Commissioner Williams, any questions for the gentleman?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Email us those renderings so she can take a look at them.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Before 13.
We did have one person speak, but she left and went home.
Okay. So no one else left to speak?
No, Ms. Moulton, Cheryl Moulton, wanted her name to be read into the record, and that's it.
All right.
She was against it?
She was in opposition, specifically about some asbestos, but that was it. So.
Okay.
So that concludes tonight's agenda.
Oh my God.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out. Thank you for your patience, for all of those who've still been with us throughout the entire evening. This will conclude our business tonight. All these matters will be taken up between now and the 13th, either with the Planning Commission and or back for the vote on the 13th of June.
I know what it was. Like what kind of outer, I don't know what it's called, for the facades of the houses, brick? Are they brick? Are they stucco? Or what?
No, they're going to be actually brick under the CRS code. I think,
three-sided?
Yeah, I think it's three-sided, if I'm correct. I'm pretty sure that that's what it is. So it's going to definitely be brick. And like I said, the homes are going to be at least 2,500 square feet. So we definitely are going to have an upper scale unit out there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.